1, 2, 1, 2. Testing 1, 2, 1, 2. Give me a test.
You sound good. Do I sound good?
Perfect. We sound Gucci. Let's get the people some music real fast. Let me get started.
Hotep.
Black people have been wrong. Black people have been wrong. Black people have been wrong. As I said earlier, for knowledge of self. For knowledge of self.
Hotep.
I'm your host and with God. Hotep Jesus. Hotep Jesus. Hotep, you're a genius. HotepJesus.com.
Oh, this a real Hotep brother. Oh, this a real Hotep brother.
Yes, sir. We got a special Griff report lined up for y'all tonight. This is your opportunity to go get you some popcorn, some fried plantain, some snacks, some chips, guacamole if you're like me. Make you a cup of coffee. Also get your notepad, get your notebooks. We got a lot to discuss today. We got a big brain conversation lined up for you tonight, so I want y'all to take notes, write down anything you don't know, anything you need to remember, anything you might need to research later. Now is your opportunity to go do that right now.
Black people have been wrong. Black people have been wrong. Black people have been wrong. As I said earlier, for knowledge of self.
Hotep.
I'm your host and with God. Hotep Jesus. Hotep Jesus. Hotep, you're a genius. HotepJesus.com.
Oh, this a real Hotep brother. Oh, this a real Hotep brother.
I'm your host and with God. Hotep Jesus. Hotep Jesus. Hotep, you're a genius. HotepJesus.com.
Oh, this a real Hotep brother. Oh, this a real Hotep brother.
Two, one, boom. Hotep Jesus.
Of all the Jesuses I know, he's the Hotepiest. Social scientist and YouTube host, Hotep Jesus.
How the fuck do you get a name like Hotep Jesus?
The one and only Hotep Jesus.
Ryan Sharp, better known to the world as Hotep Jesus.
Hotep Jesus. Hotep Jesus. Hotep Jesus.
Hotep, you're a genius. HotepJesus.com.
Somebody said, "What do you think you are? Some kind of Hotep Jesus?"
Ooh,
And
that's
I was
good.
Just like, ooh, that's sexy. Yes, I do think I'm Hotep Jesus.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a special edition of the Griff Report. I got a guest here today. He's been shaking up the internet. He done pissed off a lot of people. Some of them, I would say, a hit dog gonna holler. He been talking about the woke right, and the woke right is that hit dog. Welcome to the show, Conceptual James, a.k.a. Dr. James Lindsay. James, what's up, bro? Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, man. Thanks. This is going to be fun.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, little backstory here. Every time I use the word woke right, or I should say, every time you use the word woke right, somebody jumps in your mentions and goes, Hotep Jesus used it first. So I just want to clear the air and say, James actually beat me to it, y'all. I did not set the precedent. He actually beat me to it. I think we use the term slightly different. I'm going to go through some of the stuff in his blog today about the woke right. We use the term slightly different, but after reading his blog, it seems like we are identifying the same group of people. So I'd like to dive right into this conversation, James.
Well, let me clear the air a minute then, too, since you did. Let's be honest. I didn't make up this term either. I don't know exactly where I picked it up. But I know that I saw a Christian pastor wrote a book review at least 2 years ago saying the rise of right-wing wokeism. So, this is a term that's been floating around in the atmosphere at, close enough for counting for a few years now. And I think based on what book the guy was reviewing, I would say that this is probably the pastor's name's Kevin DeYoung. I would say that this is very likely the same group of people yet again, but this isn't my term either. So people beat me to it too.
Oh, okay. Damn. shit. So this must be a thing then.
Yeah, damn the ancients stealing all our good ideas.
So what year was this that he published this?
I'm thinking, I mean, I'd have to pull it up. I think it's 22.
22. Okay. Yes. Okay. Was his concept of the woke right similar to yours, or was it different, or how was that?
Yeah, he's reviewing a book specifically. The book is Stephen Wolf's book called The Case for Christian Nationalism. And it's a pretty deeply critical review from this Christian, saying that, what Stephen Wolf presents in that book does not represent a honest reading of theology, but it's an interesting and provocative idea. But then he points out how much of it is a mirror image of things that he sees from the woke left movement that we've been dealing with here for a number of years.
Okay. Now, before we get into the woke right, we got to get into the term woke. Okay. I want to just get right to the point here. The term woke, are you familiar with its origins in the black community?
Well, I know at least as far back as the 2000 zeros, and I understand that it was a term that was used, considerably longer ago, at least back to the 60s. Although hip was a pretty common term used back in the 60s. It kind of rose to cultural prominence, if I'm not wrong, in Erykah Badu's song "Master Teacher" in '08. Because the refrain is "Stay woke, stay woke," and so it referred to being aware of racism within the police situation, and if you're going to be out in the neighborhood, be woke to the fact that there might be people who don't have your best interests in mind for very bad reasons. And then when Trayvon Martin got shot in Sanford in Florida, it became a watchword for BLM. And my reading from that point is that, of course, BLM used it, but of course also BLM had deep Marxist infiltration and elements to it as it evolved into the world, especially by 15, 16. And I've heard that it was a co-opted movement that started organically, and I've heard that that's not true, and I don't know which one of those two is true.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely co-opted, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but I'd heard that. I'd seen the videos, but you see a lot of stuff on the internet. You're never quite sure what's 100%. So
the term was co-opted. The term was created by another group of people, and then these group of people took the term and then ran with it.
Right. Yeah. So I think that woke became this kind of slang term that came out of this BLM phenomenon primarily in 15 and really took off. And I know it didn't take off big until 20, because I was thinking about it earlier this afternoon, trying to remember. And I wrote an article saying we need to name this thing that we're dealing with in 2020, in February 2020. And I did not use the word woke then. I think I would have been familiar with the term, but I didn't think it was the best term to use. So there were debates 4 or 5 years ago about what the best term to use for this thing on the left was. And woke became, I think because the left started using it for themselves, but I don't totally remember, became the thing. And if I'm not wrong, the left started using it for themselves, and then we started calling them woke, and they were like, "Stop calling us woke. That's bad for us." And then it became, in a sense, the critics of the left took ownership of that word. But the black community had it, then it got stolen, and then we stole it from the left and turned it back on these people. So this is like 3 layers of cultural appropriation deep at this point.
Nailed it. That's exactly what happened. So, I just wanted to make sure we put that out there, because a lot of black people, feel some type of way about that. I personally feel some type of way about that, because this was like something we use that meant, be leery of government, stay woke, right? Keep your eyes open, be aware. And then now it's like a bad thing. And it's just like, damn, we can't have nothing because white folks keep messing it up, so. So now it's a thing that, again, I think you would use to loosely describe as Marxism, right?
Yeah, I think it's a I don't know whether it's better to describe it as, a loose term to describe Marxism as it presents in the world today, or if it's a specific kind of species of Marxism that's, really invested in less class analysis and a lot more identity analysis, which of course is majorly involved with the race analysis that they do, but it extends into sex and sexuality and all the other things intersectionally, as they say, as well.
Yeah, definitely. Let's hop into this article you wrote here. Deep dive, the problematic rise of the woke right. Says here, I call them woke right because they've awoken to the real truth that the rest of us just don't get. They're obnoxious, condescending, like the woke left, not averse to doxing and mob tactics. They communicate en masse by repeating talking points, and dissent gets you excommunicated. Now, I just want to point at this next part, and I'll let you take it from there. Politics is performative. When you said that, I said, man, this is what I've been saying. It seems like everybody's out here, putting on a performance. And some other stuff you said in this blog as well, we're going to get into, that really dug deep into what this thing really is. But let's talk about this. Let's break down this first paragraph here. Doxing and mob tactics. I've seen that happen. I've seen the obnoxious and condescending like the woke left. But I think the real big issue here is what I say is they've sort of lowered the bar for conservative excellence. Now it's just talking points. It's like you don't even know how to explain your side, your argument. You're just repeating what other people say.
I hear that a lot. I see that a lot. I want to make it, this is already going to be, like you called it, a big brain conversation. This is already going to be complicated. I want to make it more complicated so we don't get too many people. I don't mind, as you can tell, making people mad, but I don't like making people mad unfairly. Right. So if they get mad at me, I want to deserve it, or something like that. So, there's factions of woke right that don't agree with one another, and they don't all believe the same thing, and they don't all use the same tactics. I think that, for the purposes of a simple conversation, we can say that there's a more dignified woke right, and then there's these kind of animals that call themselves groypers running around hating basically everything, right?
Okay.
And they're a little less dignified, and they do little less is a understatement. They're extremely less dignified. Then there's this weird, I don't know, they sometimes call themselves Bronze Age, but they, identify as perverts for themselves. And maybe that's a joke, and maybe it's not, and maybe I just don't get the joke. But these people are also pretty crude and crass and get into some pretty, weird behavior. Some of it's trolling, some of it's, being avant-garde and provocative on the internet. But then you get the swarms on anything you post on Twitter, the nasty talk, the name calling. And I mean, they're vicious with the names. The lying is infinitely bigger than the doxing. I don't think they do a ton of doxing. They do a little bit of doxing, but man, do they lie. I think, by the end of the hour, we're all going to be working for Jews or something like that. Just as one lie that they tell about everybody. I don't know where you get your money, but it's probably from Jews, according to them, by the end of the minute. And it's constant like that, like I'm not really put off by this. I'm not uncomfortable, but I hear, or read 1,000 times a day that I'm gay. I've been married like 20 years to the same woman. I'm not very gay. They just make stuff up. James hates Christians. I don't hate Christians. What in the heck? They just make stuff up. And this I also associated with, the idiotic online culture war of the left. 10 years ago, it was, we hated women, or we hated gay people, or we hated black people. We hated somebody. And I'm like, I'm just trying to pay the bills. I don't have time to hate people, and it's like, what's going, and nobody knows what's going on. And so the more dignified side of this lies in a little bit more sophisticated way. The less dignified side is this kind of very gross name calling, trolling kind of thing. But I think that that's, in fact, a defining characteristic, is that they are willing to tell whatever falsehood they need to tell in order to advance their agenda. And I saw that a lot with the left, but the left was mostly just like exaggerating things. You criticize a feminist, now you hate women, and then it just goes off into some spiral. When these guys, the dignified side, you criticize them, you hate Christians, you're a neocon, you just want to bring the 90s back, like all these kind of crazy accusations that don't make any sense. And this tactic was the one that really got my attention originally and said the word woke sticks to these people like glue.
You said you think the word woke sticks to them like glue. This group of people.
Well, I mean, I think
they're less dignified.
Maybe I should say that both, but I think it fits, right? And then you start calling them woke, right? And look how they act. They flip out.
I mean, I see them in the chat. They hate you, bro. Like, what did you do?
Oh yeah, by the way, I did the most unforgivable thing you can do with the splinter movement. I exposed them, and they really. I mean, your chat is probably going to be pretty horrifying tonight. They really don't like me.
Yeah, and I've tried to hate you too. To be honest with you, I'm like, okay, what's there to hate? So I look into your stuff. I'm like, I can't find the part to hate. So what I mean,
I'm
thought
a jackass online. You can hate that. That's cool.
I'm an asshole, so I probably would like that part. But
okay. We can bro on that then.
Yeah, but what I think it is, and you mentioned this in an article where it's all good when you criticize the left. But as soon as you criticize the right, then you're a Zionist, you're paid by Jews, you're an insurgent, you're a leftist. And it's just like, well, can we really discuss ideology? And I made this tweet the other day where I said the snakes in your backyard are scarier or more of a danger, more of a threat than the snakes across the street in your neighbor's yard. So we might want to check out the people in the conservative movement who are ruining things. And, again, I come back to this point where I don't like that the bar has been lowered for who has a voice. It's like you stick to the talking points and you get elevated, and it's just like, but they're not experts. Like they didn't read anything. They didn't publish anything. They didn't write anything. They're just saying stuff that they can't actually support. So yeah, I've seen a lot of the woke right online, and most of the people in the chat that are mad at you seem to be of the undignified type.
Well, we'll just wave to him here. I mean, seriously, what are we supposed to do? But gosh, I forgot what I was going to say, trying to be funny with these guys. I was going to say something about these replies or whatever else. It doesn't matter. We'll come back to it.
I want to know about the religion thing before we get into some of the ideas in this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Why do they feel like you hate Christians? Did you criticize the evangelists or the church? Or
no, the thing is I work with Christians more than any other group in this country, primarily evangelicals and occasionally Catholics. I have friendly relationships with dozens of churches across the country that have had me come speak, that I've attended their services, that I've gone to break bread with the pastors and get to know the church congregation. I have wonderful relationships with Christians. Now, it is fair to say that I am not Christian. And so I'm an outsider to that, but I've been very welcomed by, like I said, dozens, if not 100 or more churches across the country right now, that I could show up, and these people would put me up. There'd be no question. We'd have a great week. I'd probably go to their church service. I might get to speak. This is a fantastic relationship. I don't want to go full Trump and say nobody's done more for Christianity than me, but I've been really generous in a lot of, my time and effort. I try to make it very easy to get me there, very affordable to have me. If I have a speaking fee or whatever, it's pretty low usually, unless they offer outright. I've really put a lot of effort into working with churches. Well, the thing is the thing with the religion, what I have done is that one of these respectable factions or set of factions of the woke right, in my estimation, are these people that call themselves Christian nationalists, or sometimes they call themselves the new Christian right. And obviously that's the target of my hoax, was the new Christian right, so to speak, because I understand that faction better than some of the others. That so, you work with what you know, you don't fly off the handle and just repeat talking points or whatever else.
Right.
And so it's said, I'm trying to figure out the way to word this right. The narrative is that I hate Christians, but the fact is that to say that I hate Christians is exactly the same as when the ACLU or the Southern Poverty Law Center or whatever comes out and says that I hate gay people because I criticize the queer theory movement, right? So if I criticize a drag queen in a classroom, they say, hey, look, James hates the LGBTQ movement. That's LGBTQ hate. James hates gay people. I don't hate gay people either. I don't have any problem with people. Just, know the difference between adult and child, know the difference between public and private, and deal with that. You know,
Right.
as long as we're on the right sides of that stuff, we're all good.
Right.
Like, whatever. What does that have to do with anything? It's not my business, and I'm not interested. So this is the same. You criticize Christian nationalists, and the people that are Christian nationalists say and probably are Christian, say that they're Christian, and they probably are Christian. So they say, look, James is criticizing Christians. Like me, right? They are the people I'm criticizing are Christians, and they just do what, you know, the philosophers would call a hasty generalization and accuse me of hating all Christians when I don't even hate the people I'm accusing of, you know, being up to misdeeds. And so this is a deflectionary tactic. And again, when we talk about why would we call these people woke, do they use woke tactics, right? The woke tactic is if you criticize a feminist, you're criticizing women. If you criticize a critical race theorist spouting nonsense, you're criticizing people of color or blacks or whatever. If you are criticizing, you know, a drag queen in front of a bunch of kids twerking, all of a sudden you're criticizing gay people. And then if you criticize a Christian nationalist who does not believe in the Constitution any longer, as an American citizen, you say, I don't think that that's right. You're attacking Christians. It's the same trick.
All right, let's stop right there. I want to just understand something about you. What's your relationship with God?
The word that I typically use is that I'm agnostic, right? So this is a big question. It's, in fact, in my opinion, it's a bigger question than I know how to answer, right? So that's agnostic. Is there a God? I don't know. Do I think that I'm God? Most certainly not. Do I think that I'm big enough to understand these things on a profound level? No, actually, I don't. So I have to accept that there is an awful lot in the universe that I don't know, that I don't understand, that I have to give respect for. That I have to defer away from. You know, I can't just assume.
So somebody would assume that you're an atheist, but you don't use that term.
I used to use that term, so it makes it even more easy for them to understand that. But I've backed off. You know, I grew up in a church, in a Catholic church that I didn't enjoy. Some people assume it must have been abusive or something because of these rumors that, you know, circulate. It wasn't. Everything was fine. It was just boring for kids to attend mass.
I was raised Catholic, so I concur.
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, nothing against mass, but it's boring for kids. Like, that's just a state of objective fact. Maybe that's good for kids, maybe it's not, but I certainly wasn't interested. And so I just kind of washed out, and I saw these crazy, you know, you remember like the Baptist TV channel, the TBN or whatever, and you had these guys that were going on there like doing like the faith healing and all this, and I was like, this is obnoxious. And I think those people radicalized me, so I decided that I was going to be an atheist or whatever, you know, in my 20s, and got all pissed off, and it was like, oh, religion's oppressive. I got all pissed off about that and had like a whole fit. I look back at that new atheist thing and I'm like, that's a woke thing. That's like, oh, religion's oppressing me and it's a terrible structure. And I've grown out of all that. I grew out of that, you know, a decade ago, and I've spent a lot of time thinking about it. I wouldn't go into saying something like I'm spiritual but not religious. That's not true. But, you know, I'm definitely open to it.
Do you
like,
have a spiritual practice?
I don't have a specific practice, no, but I'm pretty reverent. I think about these things a lot. And I was about to say, I have a friend whose father just had a heart attack, and she said, will you pray for my father? And I was like, yeah. And so I did. I don't know if it does anything or not. I honestly don't, but yeah, I'm going to. And if it does, fantastic. And I'm glad I helped. You know, I show gratitude. I don't know to what, virtually every morning.
Do you pray over your food?
No, typically not my food.
But you pray in the morning.
Well, yeah, I guess that's what it is.
You're showing gratitude.
I don't do this whole thing like Father God, blah, 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 amen. Like, I just kind of think thoughts. And one of the thoughts that I thought about the woke right for like the last year is like, I just catch myself like thinking this, like I will go out for a walk and I'm thinking, turn their hearts like you turned mine. And I'm thinking that is that praying? I guess that's praying. Do I believe that it's reaching, you know, a receiver? I don't know. But it's like, it's a thing to you know, be meditating on that at least. It's good. It's orienting,
so
right? Because then I have to reflect on what happened with me to change my mind about a lot of stuff, and then I have to reflect on how I hope to see that change in other people.
Yeah.
And if that's all it is, it's still good. And if it's more than that, I'm happy for it to be that.
All right. So undecided. You're undecided.
Yeah.
You're looking for more information, more clues, more proof, more evidence, more experience before you make a jump. I can respect that. I respect that. So let's come back to Christian nationalists. What's the critique of Christian nationalists?
Well, there's a number of them because, first of all, nobody knows what the word means, right? So there's a suite of meanings to this word. And I'm not being like, I looked into it and no, there are different people who have very different definitions. This is an easy term to have given a definition to. And, churches love to have little committees and set up like a statement, and everybody agrees to the statement. And there's no statement on what Christian nationalism means. I think there is actually one, but it's like one of these fringe groups, and not very many people have signed on to it. So on the one hand, I hear a lot of people say, well, I'm a Christian nationalist because I'm a Christian and I believe in America. And I'm like, that's, not a very deep definition. On the other hand, I hear people say, I wish that America was more invested in Christian belief, that more Americans were Christian and active in their faith. And okay, I believe in America. There's always the "and I believe in America" part. And I can respect that. I'd like to see more Christians involved in civic roles, civic life, whether it's committees or, the elected officials or whatever. I actually agree with that. I'm not doing very good at my hating Christians yet. Because why? Because the majority of Christians who are good people that I've met understand very clearly that their role in public office is as servant. Their goal is to serve the public and to serve their God, and to do it in an honorable, respectable way. And if they're really Christian, they know God's watching if they're corrupt. So they're, in some ways a little more immune to corruption, which is a huge temptation for any civil servant.
Yeah.
So, and then it starts getting dark after that. Then you start having people, well, there's one more kind of, neutral ground, which is the American experiment was in fact Christian at its founding, and it was mostly Christian people all along. We're culturally Christian. We celebrate Christmas and, we celebrate Easter and so on.
Wait, stop right there. Stop right there. Christmas ain't Christian.
Well, the Christians think it's Christian. And
all right, let's just get past that. Go ahead, keep going. Keep
going.
going.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't really buy into the idea that America was founded as a Christian nation. I understand the arguments. I think that they are not correct. And if we're going to get into the religious beliefs of the founders, that's a hot mess,
right?
Including a lot of Freemasonry, which is visible on the $1 bill all over the place, for example, and then all over Washington, D.C. But anyway, then we get into scary crap, right? When we start getting into the theocracy stuff, and some of this is, what the Christian theologians call theonomy. And then it starts getting into full-blown, the Christians should rule the world with a Christian prince, or should run the country with a Christian prince, which is an office higher than the president of the United States and everything else. And everything that the government does has to be bounced off of this highest authority, who is literally meant to be the avatar of God bestriding the earth, which I'm a little bit leery of, I think. And it often includes things like blasphemy laws and, killing heretics and or jailing them, forced belief. And so I'm not really down with that far end of it. But when I say the theonomy thing, by the way, that means God's law. And so it means that God's law is sovereign, and so everybody has to live by God's law. Usually the Christian belief in general is that non-believers are held to a different standard. They are not expected to follow God's law, but Christians are to hold themselves to that higher standard and follow God's law. And so the theonomists very frequently devise, kind of schemes by which you can apply God's law. They're sort of like the Muslims that want to put Sharia, but with Christian belief instead. So they devise schemes by which people are like technically Christian and therefore are subject to God's law, even though they didn't technically, fully convert and have the change in their heart that's supposed to be the Christian conversion experience. And I'm pretty leery of those people too. But when I say that, I mentioned that Christian Prince thing, which sounds like batshit crazy. That's in the book, The Case for Christian Nationalism, that the guy was reviewing, that this is kind of one of their gold standard books on the issue of Christian nationalism. So it's my go-to. When people say, what does Christian nationalism mean? I very frequently defer to say, this is the kind of gold standard book. This is what it says. Christian Prince, punishing heretics and non-believers and all the rest. But the book's almost 500 pages long and says a lot of things that are less crazy too. So which ones are you supposed to believe? So how do I define Christian nationalist? I don't know. I don't know which one of those things works, but the law of intolerance says that whichever faction is most intolerant will probably win over time. If you tolerate the whole thing. And then meanwhile, I've also been in a lot of trouble for saying that Christian nationalism is an op. And I got that from reading the federal government's documents about Christian nationalism, where they've named this the true cause of January 6th. Instead of Trump's rhetoric, it's now Christian nationalism. The thing that bound together all of the different factions of January 6th mayhem was obviously Christian nationalism. And they profile a bunch of people that are just Christians and say, look, they're a Christian nationalist because, they prayed for the health and well-being of our nation in public. It's pretty scary. And that is an op because, first of all, there's the January 6th Select Committee is like laying it out I can send you the document if you want to see it. It's crazy. But it's laid out, and they say that they have objectives with it. So, we've got to stop Christian nationalism from causing another insurrection. And to do that, they give two policy suggestions. One is to create greater restrictions to prevent Christians from displaying or practicing their faith in public office. And the second one is to, what boils down to, I don't remember the wording, but what it boils down to is creating a surveillance system over the churches to make sure that they're not hotbeds of what the woke assholes in the federal government call white domestic extremism. Yeah, I'm like.
So to be clear, you don't agree with that, the decisions from the committee, right?
Hell no.
Right.
Hell no. Like, let people have their faith and leave them alone.
Yeah.
And that's my whole angle, by the way, on faith, which is this country is about religious liberty. And so I'm not going to tell you how to believe, and I don't want you to tell me how to believe, and I don't want the government telling anybody how to believe.
Yeah. Well, let's come back to something that I want to point out that could be a point of vulnerability.
Sure.
When we talk about Christian nationalism and you say that you rely on this one book that could be deemed a flaw, usually when I check out a subject matter, I like to have the pro, the con, and the guy in the middle. So I would use at least 3 different volumes before I have a critique of said thing. And
Sure.
And also if it's old, maybe something new too, right? Because things change, like people change, times change, technology, et cetera, et cetera. So I can see how people might have a lot of pushback when you refer to only one document.
Well, I mean, there's another book that I read some of. I didn't read all of it. That's by Andrew Torba and Andrew Isker. Andrew Torba is a CEO of Gab, and I don't know if you know him.
I know Andrew.
Yeah, okay. So Andrew Torba and Andrew Isker wrote a book about Christian nationalism as well. I've read some, but not all of that one.
Okay.
I normally
How's that one?
As a busy man, I normally try to delegate a lot of stuff. Like, this isn't my bailiwick, right? My bailiwick is Karl Marx and his intellectual descendants.
Right.
And so I know that there are these theologians and pastors that I know. Bill Roach is one guy, for example, that's a theologian who think this is very important and very interesting. And they read all of this stuff, and I defer to them. And granted, that's risky. I can't outsource all of my knowledge to them, but I don't try to be an expert in everything is basically what I'm saying.
Well, how would you contrast the 500-page book to, the little bit that you read from Andrew Torba? Was there a lot of things that overlapped? Were there differences? Or is it?
I mean, they're actually pretty different books. I mean, I think their goals are different. So Stephen Wolfe in his book, The Case for Christian Nationalism, which is roughly 500 pages, his goal is, he calls it a thought experiment, that he says that he wants to run through just kind of a set of ideas. He's not really deeply grounded in Scripture. In fact, he says he's not going to be deeply grounded in Scripture. And a lot of Christians criticize the book for not being, it's not citing Scripture here and there.
That's flawed.
Well, he sees it as a work primarily of political theory. And, I'm not going to jump up and down about this. I'm just going to take his book as it is. But a lot of Christians have had a huge issue with that.
Can't do that. Yeah, you can't do that. You can't.
I tend to agree.
You can't claim
Andrew Torba
Christian
and Andrew
nationalism
Isker's
and then just discard the Bible. No, you've got to adhere to the Bible. Yeah.
I mean, I think that that's called the foundation, and if you're going to build a building, you build it on the foundation, not somewhere else. But,
Right.
yeah.
So Torba.
Torba and Isker's book is it's smaller. It's a lot lighter in reading, and it's just kind of a historical survey in part, talking about how the history of America has always been rooted in Christian ideals and Christian patterns and motifs, and it's kind of a general argument that the country would be better off living up to that so-called Judeo-Christian or Christian heritage. I think more specifically, especially with Andrew Torba, Christian heritage. But it's a much lighter read. It doesn't take the kind of swings to the fences that Stephen Wolfe takes, which is kind of surprising knowing Andrew Torba, because he's kind of a swing to the fences kind of character with Gab and some of the free speech stances he's taken through owning Gab. But it's a much lighter.
What do you think his goals are, if you had to take a guess, with Christian nationalism?
Whose?
Torba. Yeah.
At the time when he wrote the book, I would say the book reflects kind of one of these kind of middle positions that we were describing on that kind of sort of spectrum earlier. And so maybe that's what it is. His posts and the articles that he writes for Gab, for whatever reason, I don't know how I ended up getting the Gab newsletter, but somehow I get the Gab newsletter in my email, and I don't read them all the time, but I read them some of the time. His vision seems a little bit more radical now, and in particular, his vision includes that it's time for us. This was an article I read about a little over a year ago, in the email newsletter I got, which is called "Balkanize and Build." Right, and so the idea is,
wait, hold on, wait, what?
Balkanize and Build.
When did this start? When did this drop?
It's over a year ago.
Wait, this sounds familiar. Balkanize and Build.
Balkanize and Build. And maybe you can find it. I don't know. Gab, Balkanize.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Balkanize and Build, the path forward.
It sounded really familiar. It sounded like it sounded
Andrew Torba.
It sounded very familiar. Okay.
When did this drop? This dropped after the red wave failed to materialize after the election in November of 2022. So it's 2 years old.
All right.
And so his answer to that was, it's time to Balkanize the country, at least culturally. The path forward, Balkanize and build. Voting harder isn't going to cut it, as the last election just disproved. He says we have to build. The existing system will collapse. It's not a matter of if, but when. When that happens, we need to have Christian infrastructure in place to fill the power vacuum. The Amish have had it right this entire time. Their communities are growing and thriving. They will continue to do well. We must become a form of neo-Amish, building sovereign communities and families away from Babylon. Technology is okay and a good tool. It is something we can use to our advantage to communicate, to build, and to engage in commerce with one another. We are the new pilgrims. We must move to deep red states, push them further right, build and secure a future for our families. Forget politics at the national level. That rigged game is over. Focus on state and local elections, not what is going on in D.C. Conservatism has failed. And I'm
Interessante. Okay.
Yeah, so when I read stuff like that, I'm like, well, maybe his views are a little more extreme now.
How do you interpret that? If you were to boil it down and spit it back out to somebody, how would you explain that to a 15-year-old?
To a 15-year-old?
Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like what Torba is saying is that the government regime, now we'll contextualize this. This was in 2022.
Hold on, pause right there. Hold on, pause right there. Mods in the kick chat. If people are spamming the same thing, just ban them. You can give them a 24-hour ban. If they're acting weird, just ban them. I don't care. They're not going to stick around anyway. So just feel free to just smack anybody over the head with the ban hammer. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I love that. I feel that in my soul sometimes. Yeah, so I would tell them, first of all, let's remember that the Democrats were fully in power then, and that there was this widely predicted red wave coming. Lots of Republicans were supposed to win House and Senate seats. That did not materialize. The Senate ended up falling by one, and then the House was a narrow margin, but not kind of a very safe margin to the Republicans. And so what he's saying is, look at the federal politics situation. He said it's himself. It's a rigged game. It is not going to allow conservatives in any longer. So what we have to do is a radically different plan. We give up on national politics, and what we have to do is consolidate our power where we have it, where we can get it. So we're all going to move to deep into the red states. We're going to get into the deep heart of, flyover country or wherever that happens to be. And then we're going to build intentional communities around our values and concentrate political power there as kind of refuges and bastions and castles up against the national politic, which is turned against us. And it started with voting harder is not going to get us out of this. So we're not going to worry about trying to figure out how to get, say, Trump in the White House again come 25. We're going to put our energy into state and local efforts, and we're going to collect ourselves. We're going to move out of California where we can't win. We're going to move out of New York where we can't win. We're going to move out of New Jersey where we can't win. And we're going to flood, I guess, Oklahoma where we can win. And we're going to consolidate our power there. And the way we're going to consolidate our power, he said, was that we're going to build intentional Christian communities to make sure that that's what we're going to have as the value structure in those communities. Now, as we know, there are Christians and there are Christians, so it's an open question as to who those are going to be, or whether they're going to be the same. Is all the Baptists going to go to Oklahoma and all the Presbyterians going to go to Idaho? Like, where are people going, right? Or are they coming to the same places? That's not answered by this. So we don't know if these are going to be kind of one denomination, multi-denomination, but we're going to collect our power. Now, this is a program that actually has you can hear his despair too. Conservatism has failed, blah, 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 right? So this is a despairing kind of lament. But the goal, he said, is to Balkanize. So we're going to move ourselves to our own intentional communities. We're going to wall ourselves off. We're going to make our kind of own small little fiefdoms. And what we're going to do is build within those so that we build and consolidate our strength, and we can operate maybe outward from those, which is a strategic way to go about things. Maybe it's not the best strategy, but it is a strategy. Maybe it's a good strategy, but either way, I'm just saying it's strategic, not with a thumbs up good strategy or thumbs down bad strategy attached. It is strategic thinking that may or may not be good strategy. That, what I would tell you now, that's the 15-year-old. What I'll tell you is the fact of the background knowledge that I have is this is a program that was outlined in a book in 2009 called The Big Sort. And I'm trying to remember who wrote The Big Sort. I used to be able to just rattle that off. I've processed a lot of information this week. My brain's a little blinky.
No, I get it. So let me hop in right there.
Yeah.
Chat, if it's somebody you think I would cuss out on an average show, just block them. Coach said they really be watching HJ. Listen, bro, I need my 10%. I need my 10%. Anyway, I don't really see nothing wrong with that. Would you agree with me? I think that's it's a solid plan that Alex has there. Sorry, Andrew has. Yeah.
Well, I think it's a plan, but that's what I was starting to say. It's a plan, and I don't know if it's a good plan. I understand the strategy. I understand consolidate your strength. I also understand that what you're doing then is creating, electoral supermajorities in, say, California, New York, New Jersey, or whatever. And seeing how New York and New Jersey moved in this last election, that might not have been the best strategy. Imagine if all those conservatives who moved to Tennessee and who moved to Oklahoma and who moved to Florida had stuck it out in New York, and how, it wasn't close, but it was closer than anybody expected. Or if they'd stuck it out in New Jersey, not that anybody should be stuck in, some city they don't want to live in. So I get that. So I don't know if it's a good or bad strategy, but I do know it's part of a broader strategy that's called the Big Sort. And the Big Sort is to get increased polarization in the country by creating very blue regions and very red regions that are more and more estranged from one another. And so you end up with a huge, huge surplus of, say, Democrats in California, huge surplus of Republicans, say, Oklahoma. They barely talk to each other. It's harder and harder to run things at the federal level. Is that going to be good or bad for us to be able to continue as a single nation? Well, I don't know. I honestly don't know. But that's the plan. Now, there are some subsidiary effects to this program, one of which is that California, which has a population, that's just brimming to the gills with people, like how many tens and twenties of, 50 something million people live in California, right? I forgot the number, 53, 54 million people. It's an absurdly large number. Now imagine if that's safely 75, 85%, because all the conservatives move out and they go to Oklahoma. So now you have, 56 or 54, whatever it is, electoral votes completely locked up in California for sure to the Democrats. And you have a surplus 8 or 9 million people that you can now move to, say, Tennessee, who are left all together, who can then flip Tennessee blue. Or they can move and sandbag Texas and flip Texas blue.
Yeah.
Because that it's a secure majority, right? This is a very, very sophisticated political maneuver. And of course, are you really going to move that many people? Well, you can, job transfers and whatever else. All you got to do is help pressure to relocate their company out of California with its awful tax laws into Texas, and you have oceans of Californian people who are going to get paid to relocate to Texas. And we've seen tons of companies do that. So it's a plausible plan. But the big sort was actually meant to increase polarization, not decrease polarization in the United States. And so I understand the impulse for sure, because I don't like being around people that drive me nuts and, are lunatics and that create laws like some of this transgender laws that California is passing every other day.
Let's put a bookmark in the conversation. I want to get to some more big brain shit.
Okay, sorry.
No, this is great.
No, I get going. I think somebody said in the comments earlier that I talk in circles. I'll talk forever, man.
Listen. This is the place where when people come, they got to talk. And I think what you provided was valuable. Tune in and drop out. Thank you for the $20 super. I see people on YouTube looking to ask questions. If you ain't put no money in my pocket, I don't give a fuck about what you think. Thank you, mods, for swatting those fools out of the chat. Christian nationalism. The key, I'm going to attempt to make some sense of what it is.
Sure.
The most important part of Christian nationalism is the nationalism. Okay? That's the thing that's really going to bind it together, okay? Because once you get into Christian, it's just it's all a whole bunch of interpretations of what that is, right? But nationalism, we can kind of nail down, right? Nation comes first, okay? Now this has to be a merger of Christian of religion and the state. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think so, but excuse me, but there's lighter versions where it just means that the state becomes the church becomes a recognized advisory to the state, for example.
Wait. Whoa.
I mean, Trump's kind of even doing this, right? He's creating that office of faith or whatever. I forgot what he's calling it, where they've always had a White House faith advisor as far back as I can remember.
Okay. All right. So that's like Christian nationalism light.
Yeah. And like for the record, I don't really object to that. The church is supposed to advise people. So I don't know how you pick who it's going to be. I mean, I know how politics work, so it's going to be something dirty.
What could a church advise the government on? What could they possibly say to government to? I can't think of one thing.
Well, I can guarantee you that what in my opinion it should be is that they should be advising the government to avoid taking steps that threaten religious liberty, because their liberty to practice their faith is threatened by any such thing. Of course, the Constitution backs them up, but you can keep somebody out of a lawsuit that way at least. But there's also priorities.
So situations where a church doesn't want to marry people of opposite sex, that should not be.
I mean, I think that's
upon.
where you start getting into this, is where you're going to have churches that are going to start advising on positions of morality, where you're no longer talking about illegality or legality, but now you're talking about shouldn'ts and mustn'ts for various faith-based reasons. And so obviously the elephant in that room is going to be the abortion issue. They're going they're going to push that through that, that's going to be the kind of key and core issue. Then there's the stuff kind of tied to that that's not the same issue, but it's related, surrogate parenting, in vitro fertilization, and so on, that they're definitely going to be interested in trying to get in the door. The idea as, an advisory would be to say, Mr. President, this is what the faith, the evangelical faith community in the United States would think on this issue, as just an advisory role. And I think that's what the White House faith advisors, technical duties have always been. Paula White was Trump's first one. I don't know who Biden has, and I'm pretty sure it doesn't matter.
All right. Sounds like a bunch of people that are lost. I can't get with that whole thing. I can respect it, and I know, but my issue is when people try to legislate morality, and that's why I'm like, for example, some people want to trans their kids, right? And they want, and the conservatives, or I would call them, this is a woke right stance. Ban transing kids. I think that's a woke right thing. What do you agree, disagree before I go down the rabbit hole? Or would you like me to explain?
Actually. So we do have some disagreement in our. That's good. So we have some space to discuss here.
All right. So let me explain my point.
Yeah.
I believe that if you would like to eliminate your family from the gene pool, you should probably have the right to do that. Because when you trans your kid, you're basically eliminating that gene pool. And what I'm saying is that when these people end their procreation, that means we don't have to deal with them no more. That means my kids don't got to deal with this mental illness because they've ended the procreation of that gene, because that gene has obviously been corrupted, right? Also, this is people inflating the size of the state, giving the state more authority over our lives. And the last thing we want to do is give the state more authority over our lives. If you want to do some weird shit with your kids, you should have every right to.
Okay, so for me, it comes down to I think that all medical procedures should flow from a position of informed consent. And I actually think in this case, it's not possible to give informed consent.
Informed consent, explain that.
Well, if you're going to go get a shot, up until and excluding the COVID vaccine, apparently, they're supposed to tell you, this is what the shot is. This is what it's supposed to do. They don't, you might not actually listen to them, but they're supposed to tell you what the shot does, what the side effects might be. Just kind of general information, what this is for, why you might do it, and what risks you're running in order to do it. So and then you say, okay, you can do that, or you sign off.
So wait, let's stop right there. So you're saying that I walk into an office and they're offering me some sort of medical procedure, and the onus is on them to disclose all of the side effects.
As many, and at least
harms.
Certainly the serious ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Continue.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Before you say, if they come in and say, we can make, whatever happened for you, we can make you feel better, but they don't tell you that they're going to cut off your hand in order to get it.
Right.
We can make your finger stop hurting. We'll just cut your hand off.
Right.
So you should be fully informed on the procedure that they shouldn't be able to intentionally withhold information relevant to the procedure before you agree to the procedure, or else you have a medical malpractice.
I like that. Yes.
And so, so I think that in this case, informed consent's not possible because the child is the one receiving the treatment. The parent is the one giving the consent. But the parent has no way to know what the future state of that child, what the child's going to want to be or do when they grow up. You look at these detransitioners, right? They're always asking, where was the adult in the room? It wasn't the medical profession. It wasn't the schools. It wasn't my parents. Where is the adult in the room who said, in 5 years, you might regret this? And so, a lot of these kids go through this. They get their breasts lopped off. They get their genitals messed with. They, take what they call hyperphysiological doses of cross-sex hormones or puberty blockers. And then there's, like you said, they sterilize themselves and whatever. But what you have ultimately is a 12 or a 13 or a 15-year-old person who does not know what they're sacrificing, choosing to make that sacrifice at that age, but then their parent is the one signing off for them. And there's a mismatch there. I do not believe that the patient receiving the treatment can have the informed consent necessary to undergo that particular treatment. Now, I agree with you about the expansion of government and state interference and power point. So I don't agree with you about the conclusion. I do agree with you about the other part.
On this point, to me, you woke right. Because you worried about somebody else's kids. Somebody else's kids is their business. You need to mind your business. So that's why, to me, once you start, now it starts sounding like liberalism and activism, where you're concerned with other people's children and the future of other people's children, which now you're inserting yourself. If it's not this topic, it'll be another topic. It'll be another reason for the government to get involved. So that's where I separate, and I'm like, nah, if they want to do, I mean, obviously we want to protect children. Like, that is a moral standard that all human beings should have.
Yeah.
But at some point, you've got to say, it's none of my business.
No, I hear you with that, actually, but it's like I feel I would rather let me get it to the government point.
But I'm a savage though, because I like I like the way Rome handled things. If your baby came out deformed and they tossed it over the side of the thing, this is just, they practice this purity, right? So I think that way. I think like a savage of the ancients, right? Where you're trying to create purity amongst your family and amongst your race. And it almost leads to like eugenics, right? Like sometimes I sound like a eugenicist when I talk like this, but I think these people are so harmful to society that the best thing that can happen is for them to eliminate themselves from the gene pool.
Well, having met a lot of these people, I get really concerned about that.
Okay.
Because I see these teenage kids getting sucked in by bullshit on the internet, which is what
that
it is
true.
9 times out of 10.
That is true.
Like
It's become a trend.
Yeah, they get sucked in by some bullshit on the internet, and they're getting failed. And my opinion on the government is that the government shouldn't have to do this. There shouldn't be a medical authority in the world that's like, yeah, we'll lop the healthy tissue off of a 14-year-old girl who's having body issues after she got sexually assaulted by some boy at school, right? So, since the medical establishment has decided not to regulate itself, and since parents, I mean, this is where I get dodgy, because parents should have, the absolute right to direct the upbringing of their children, in my opinion. And like, that's basically it's nobody else's business point, phrased, kind of like constitutional speak. And I don't want the government. I don't think that the government should have to do this, but the fact of the matter is that something is happening. And I don't necessarily believe that that's a slippery slope, because the idea of do not remove healthy tissue from a child for what amounts to a cosmetic procedure, like, that's a pretty definitive, a pretty bright line. And the regulation is not on the parents, and the regulation is not on the children. The regulation is on the medical profession itself, which is acting, in my opinion, in gross malpractice based on activist perversion of their core principles.
Yeah.
First, do no harm is supposed to be the first principle of medicine, and you've got a mentally ill or traumatized. A lot of times these are girls, right, who got felt up at school, or some teacher or some coach, some weirdo feels them up. They get horrified about their own body, as a lot of young women do as they go through puberty as it is. And you got these weirdos on the internet telling them, well, maybe it's actually, there's a way out of this. And then the doctors are like, hell yeah, cash money.
Because they get paid for life.
They get paid, and then you got pharmaceuticals for life. You got the expensive surgeries. I mean, these are like expensive procedures.
Like if I'm going to send my kids to school, to be a doctor, I'm like, listen, it's going to be a good career for detransitioning. In about 10 years, you might want to line yourself up for detransitioning surgeon.
We are. Well, I didn't say it for doctors. I've been saying it for lawyers for several years. I go to speak on college campuses. I'm like, you want to major in law? You need to go into medical malpractice law.
Also true. Good point.
Ka-ching. But I mean,
so
I agree.
James,
I don't want the government doing this.
At what point is this natural selection?
I mean, they used to publish these books called the Darwin Awards about people who did these things to themselves. But this is where I'm saying you have, literally children, primarily young women who've been traumatized, who've been groomed. I don't want a natural selection done on a 14-year-old making a dumbass decision based on a bad set of circumstances.
I get that. I totally get that. However, not all the cases are that. But at what point do we allow nature? This is the problem.
Well, the answer in this case is easy. It's 18 years old.
Hold on. This is the problem, and I'm going to just be frank here. This is the Griff Report. I wild out. This is the problem with white folks. Y'all always trying to fix some shit. Stop trying to fix some shit. Every time you fix some shit, you break some shit. So the problem is white folks always trying to save somebody. Y'all trying to save Africa, you messed that up. Trying to save South America, you messed it up. Try to save Ukraine, you messed it up. Leave. If motherfuckers want to chop they dick off, let them chop they dick off and mind your business.
Now, I will tell you, so you said, where's the line? I said 18 years old. I was in a college. I was at Northwestern, and I was at this kid said, you need to be nicer about what you say because I'm trans. You know what I said back to this poor kid? I said, you go cut your dick off if you want. I don't care. That's what I said.
Yeah.
So,
as you should.
But I draw that line at 18 years old. Actually, I don't even, my line is, can we not do a differential diagnosis first? Can we look for an underlying trauma? Can we look for an underlying mental illness before it's like, I'm Jazz Jennings and I'm going to, trot out my parents are going to trot myself out as a little kid, for their virtue points. Because that kid, I mean, I get you though. People always white people always trying to fix something.
James, you're a good guy and you're absolutely right. I don't disagree with you. But I disagree with you.
I get you.
Right? Like intellectually and morally, you are doing the right thing. Okay.
I am technically correct.
You are technically correct. But in Hotepistan, the care for those people does not exist. Does not, like we practice homeschooling. We pulling our kids away from all of this, right?
I'm 100% behind that too. In fact, this won't be an issue if people are homeschooling.
Right, because a lot of this stuff,
at least you keep them kids off the goofy internet stuff.
Right.
It used to be Tumblr. I don't know what it is now that the kids are getting all whacked out on.
Right. All right. So far,
but that's a parenting issue.
So far, I've identified one point that you're the woke right.
All right, whatever. I'll take it. I'll let you have that.
Let me add that one, James. Come on, man.
No. You're good.
But like, let's be serious. Government legislating social issues. It's a slippery slope. Like, for example,
that's what I'm saying. This is a medical issue. And I'm saying the government needs to step in because these medical authorities are not doing their job.
Yeah.
And here's my ideal solution, by the way.
Okay.
And I've said this to, I don't know, 5 to 7. I don't know how many I've actually got to sit down and say this to state legislatures. So this is what when the rubber hits the road, what does James Lindsay tell these people? Do not ban this crap. You're just going to end up in court. Here's what you do. You extend the rights of private action, malpractice action, past the average time of desistance by twice. So it turns out that the average time of desistance for some person who decides to go and undergo transition, 7 years. So some of them are faster. 2 or 3 is kind of a minimum most of the time. Some of them, stick with it for life.
Yeah.
But it's 7 years on average. In most states, the statute of limitations for medical malpractice suit is 2 years. You stretch that to 20, and you just watch how all of a sudden the calculation from these butchers that want to make some cash money off of these broken kids, you watch how that calculation changes. And I know that you'll see that calculation change, not because I'm smart, not because I figured it out, because Missouri did it. Yeah. And they basically stopped doing the surgeries across the board in the state. So you extend that statute of limitations, and you can nip this in the bud through what you're not doing is saying the state comes in and says you can and cannot do this. But what you are doing is stepping in and saying, if you want to do this, they have a right to come back if they feel like that you misled them or harmed them or did not give them proper informed consent and sue you into the ground, as frankly I feel like these doctors deserve.
Okay. We are in total agreement with the doctors, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want to get started on the medical industry. Let's just keep moving along
It's
before I lose my YouTube channel.
The medical industry is a demon. We'll just leave it with that, right?
Yeah, let's not even. I don't even want to start. I'm gonna get
that's
banned.
A whole other show.
Yeah, I'm gonna get banned when I start talking about that. Let's go to isolationism. Okay, you talked about isolationism, and this is basically some people's take about America first and all of that. And to me, you know, I think we might agree on this. I don't believe in this America first bullshit. It doesn't sound plausible to me. But what is your take on this isolationism and these guys with the America First movement?
Yeah, I think that there's two meanings to America First. When one is put America first, like in a very kind of idiotic way, America's the only thing that matters. And then the second one is America's priorities are first. And this is the example I've been given lately. We all look at Canada and see that Canada's fucked up, right? Justin Trudeau's doing whatever. It's looking like it's going, they're about to confiscate guns. I guess that's the new thing is they're going to start they're doing a gun buyback. There's amnesty for a year. They want to confiscate people's firearms and I think send them to Ukraine, to your point about people messing stuff up. And, it looks very much to me like Canada's on the slippery slope to communism, right? Now, this is a conversation about America first. Do I care about Canada? Well, as it turns out, I do. I've worked in Canada, I have friends in Canada, but I do care about Canada for personal reasons, but that's beside the point. From an America first position, the question is, should I care about Canada? Well, my friend, we have a 5,500-mile border with Canada. I should probably care if that becomes the world's largest border with a communist country. Right? Because that becomes an immediate national security threat to America. So how can America First not care about what's going on to some degree in Canada politically? How can America First not care if it's one of its greatest trading allies in Great Britain is doing what it's doing and sliding into communism under Keir Starmer? And then there's like, we don't even have to open a whole can of worms with Ukraine or Israel, but those are huge issues where in America First isolation, hey, let's just be like turtles and put our body and head back in the shell and ignore what's going on in the rest of the world misses. Like, for example, I will not talk about, like, if you start, I'm not going with you. I'm not going to talk about Israel in terms of policy. But what I'm going to talk about is that is a very volatile region with a lot of people, a lot of countries that do not have the United States' best interests in mind. Some of them have advanced weapon technologies. They have other tools that they can use, like oil embargoes and so on. They have a lot of weapons at their disposal that can make life over here pretty crappy for a guy who wants America to be doing pretty well because I live here. Israel is like eyes and ears on the ground and a safe patch of land for us to be able to say, look, if you guys want to start getting funny, we're ready and we have a launch pad that we can use that's right next door. So you might want to keep your ass calm. And the eyes and ears in the region part, having an ally, and not that everything that Israel does is good. I'm not going to get into it. I'm not saying that. Having an ally in the region that allows us to keep eyes and ears in there is an American national security interest. So an America First position that doesn't recognize that seems not just naive, but foolish to me. I'm not saying that you have to back Israel. I'm not saying anybody needs to be a Zionist.
So you're a Zionist. You're a Zionist, man.
I mean, I guess
that's
in the
what they're
right
going to
sense.
say, James. They're going to say, James is a Zionist. You're getting, James, where's the Zionist check at, man?
Can you imagine for 1 minute that I give a flying fuck what anybody says about me at this point?
I agree with
James,
you, though.
You're a Zionist. You know what I say back?
What?
I say, I'm Israel Chai. That's what I say back.
What does that mean?
It's like the chant, the like war chant for Israel.
Oh, okay.
And that's called trolling.
Look,
because it's like the other day they were like, I was like, I'm going to be all nice about some stuff right now, and they're like, what's going on, James? And I was like, I got the call. I ain't get no damn call. I'm trolling these motherfuckers.
You're right though. Like, Israel is our eyes and ears in that region. You can't just pull out of Israel, pause. You can't do that. You can't do that. If you are pro-America, you've got to be pro-Israel. You cannot separate the two. We helped build Israel. We helped put it there. We got to help establish it. Now,
Afghanistan was a disaster.
Afghanistan was a disaster.
Ended up giving a shit ton of stuff to China.
Do you see what I'm saying?
National security problem. America First needs to care that, it turns out there's the rest of the world out there. We have a huge border with Canada. We got a huge border with Mexico. Shit's happening in both places. We got to care about that to a degree.
We got a couple of super chats. Tune in Dropout said parents are being told their children will commit suicide if they don't medically transition. And again, I think those parents, that gene pool needs to be removed. If you going to sit up there and listen to that shit, you just got to, if you don't chop your dick off, your kid's going to kill themselves. What? You believe that shit? You got your whole family got to be removed from the gene pool. Lauren Fonseca, $5 super. We should not be sending money to Israel or any other country before the U.S. borders are secured and illegals are deported.
It's complicated, but the fact of the matter is that, like, there are priorities, and that's what's being spoken about here. We got problems here. We got to deal with our problems here. But it turns out that we can't just let the rest of everything drop while we deal with this particular problem. The border, the immigration, whatever. And it could be any other problem. We got priorities. We got to prioritize things. We got to direct money, but you can't let the rest of the things happen. It's like if you got 4 pans on the stove, you can't just decide, this one's boiling, so I got to just forget the other 3 till they catch on fire.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
It's like irons are in the fire, baby. We got to tend to all the irons in the fire.
Yeah, you can't. Like when people talk about the border in Israel, I'm like, it's domestic policy versus foreign policy. Somebody's got to handle what's going on overseas, and somebody got to secure the border. Like both of those things have to happen simultaneously. But we can't stop funding Israel. What is America known for? America's known for kicking ass. That's what we do. We kick ass. We got the greatest military since whoever, right? Shout out to Willie Will. Thank you for the 10 gifted subs. Right. Let's say Rome, right? Greatest military since Rome, right? That's what we do. We kick ass. So we're going to, they got these games, civilization, all types of shit. Russia wants to grab some territory. China wants to grab some territory. The West wants to. We all know this is a colonization game. Who's going to go take over a region first? That's what this whole thing is about. And everybody wants to sit here and act like countries are supposed to act like saints. That's not how the game go. Because if you allow China or Russia or somebody else to conquer that territory, it's going to be in your backyard. It's going to turn into problems. And then before you know it, they're encroaching in on your territory. So you got to take over more territory. This is a war game. This is about taking over territory. So, if the United States want to do what they've been doing, I'm not against it. However, I do think we need to fix some things with our domestic policy. And America first, let's dive into that. Like, what is that? When you say America first, what is that? Do you agree with America first policy? Let's start there.
I mean, we can't start there. We got to start with what we mean by it, because I don't agree with some of this crap, and I definitely agree with the sentiment in certain ways. So maybe it's easiest if instead of trying to winnow out some definition, let's just say what I do agree with. I think that America's number one priority should be American interests. That's what I would mean by America first. That doesn't necessarily mean domestic policy. It doesn't just.
Let's stop right there. What are America's interests?
Well, any nation, we'll start here. Any nation's interests have to be to secure the safety in the sense of like war.
Okay, what's the next one?
What do you mean?
Safety.
Oh,
okay,
you got to secure the opportunity for
that goes
your
without
own
being said, right? Yes, absolutely. Yeah. What's next?
Well, this is where all the priorities already are. Like, that's where they're at. Like, we do have to tend to that border. The border is an issue. In fact, both borders are issues. Of course, Trump's already making and shaking on that.
Yeah, but I'm so sick of that shit. You see, this is what I be talking about. Woke right, they want to talk about the border. I'm like, yo, that goes without being said. What's the next issue? We know we got to lock the border down. Obama told us we got to keep a tight border. Hillary told us we got to keep a tight border. Trump said the Kamala border czar said we got to keep a tight border. We know we have to have a tight border. Yeah. We got Trump in. Hopefully he's going to do something about that. What's the next issue? If we're talking about America first,
completely. That's the next issue.
Right there. That's a foreign policy agenda. But okay, let's go with it. Why
America first? Like Trump said, that's a bad deal.
Why?
A bad deal for America. Well, the United Nations is fucked up in the first place. I mean, we need to get away from that. We do not need any more of their weird, goofy take on how the world's supposed to be ordered telling us what to do. Look at, for example, there's subsidiary with the WHO trying to create these pact for the future. I don't need a WHO pact for the future telling me what I'm going to do. They're trying to do these things called international health regulations, where Tedros Ghebreyesus, sitting over there, placed in his seat in the WHO in Geneva by the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, that Tedros Ghebreyesus can declare a public health emergency anywhere in the world, and then everybody has to follow that policy. So if they want to do China-style lockdowns in Indiana, the governor of Indiana has no say whatsoever. It can override all of that. Like, oh, hell no. These people have lost their mind, and it is, you talk about encroaching on American territory and interests. They're doing it with law.
Where's it headquartered at?
For the WHO?
No, UN.
Well, it's also in Geneva. They're up the street from one another. I was there last June.
Were you?
Yeah, I took a piss on the UN sign.
Nah, you was taking checks from the Zionists out there.
I didn't want to get arrested in Switzerland, because getting arrested in Switzerland's not good.
Okay.
So I took a water bottle and pretended to piss on there and got a video of it.
Oh, wow.
That's my style right there.
That's
Here's
crazy.
what I think of you guys.
So here's my thing. That's not a realistic goal. That's an idealistic goal. Pulling out of UN. Yeah, that's like, come on, man. The Illuminati lizard men set up the League of Nations following World War II, and
that was World War I. That's right.
Right. I'm sorry, World War I, and then it turned into UN. Like, come on, we not finna act like the lizard men are gonna let United States pull out of UN. That's not realistic.
I would love to see Trump try, and then watch China step in and say, we'll fill in the money, we'll fill in everything, like, just prove that the whole thing's
you want Trump to lose another ear.
They're not gonna miss again. Well, actually, I got a pastor friend who said the hand of God is on Trump, and they can shoot at him 1,000 times and he'll survive every attempt. And he survived 2, which is pretty damn good.
Yeah.
So, no, I don't want him to lose anything at all. But no, I think that we've got, this is I think, actually a crucial fight. And in my America First,
so what do we,
whatever that means, interest.
What are we losing by being a part of the UN?
Sovereignty. We're losing control over our own governance as a country. Like I just was talking about, that was WHO, but that's part of the UN. Their international health regulations coming in, and like, imagine if all of a sudden. So
you actually believe there is such a thing as an America? You believe this thing actually exists separately from the world order, or I call it the world liberal order?
I think that that's complicated too,
because we all know it was set up by who? The Freemasons that came out of Europe.
Europe. Oh, yeah.
Right.
I don't know if we were going to like Germany or Scottish Rite.
Wherever we want to go, we all know America wasn't born, like a seed in the ground and sprouted, right? Like, this was created by, okay. So here's my issue. This is another thing I say when people are woke right. This might be your second woke right point, by the way.
All right.
You cannot separate America from the Western world order. This is all one thingamajig. And people like to believe that America is separate, then wonder why America doesn't operate separate. And it's because it's not separate.
Well, it's certainly not separate now, but I'd love to see it shake that up.
But when was it separate? I look through history. I don't see not one moment where it was separate.
Not even 1776.
You call that separate?
They were shooting the only people who had a claim on them. So I have a feeling you're about to tell me that the bankers sank the Titanic on purpose. You're going to give me some alternate Hotep history here, and I'm not going to know what to do with it. Is that what's about to happen?
No, we're not going to do that. I don't want to do that today. This is your world. I'm going to let you rock. But people believe that 1776 was an organic war, and that sounds crazy to me.
Fair enough.
Do you know the reason that Benjamin Franklin said the war was?
What did he say? Tell me.
England wouldn't let them create their own currency.
National sovereignty issue.
A banker war.
Well, that's
had to do with money.
Well, very few things don't.
Exactly.
I mean, it's always money or some way to get money, which is going to be power or drug trade or sex trade.
Mm-hmm.
At the biggest levels, that's really all that's going on.
Right. So
hence the Epstein list, the Diddy list, all this crap.
So let's fast forward, right? I want to go down this America First road, because pulling out of the UN, knowing the history of the United States, how it's established, how much the founding fathers of America loved England and wanted to be like them. Anyway, I don't think that's realistic. I think it's idealistic. And I think it's also a waste of time, because if you're talking about America First, it's like you're talking about Americans and you're talking about, what happens in the UN and whatnot. It's like, to me, that's a foreign issue, right? So can we put that aside or no?
Yeah, I'm totally content to put it aside. Okay. We got lots of things we talk about.
We got to move on. What's the next issue for Americans? If we're talking about America First, right? We've secured the border. Let's assume we've pulled out of UN. What's next?
Well, in my opinion, probably the biggest scale issue and the biggest, most concerning thing for Americans is going to be the economic situation that we find ourselves in.
Now you're talking my language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a pretty crazy belief about what's wrong with our economy, besides the insane spending. So in the printing money to cover the insane spending, which is obviously one of the bigger problems with the economy.
Okay.
But my insane view is, in fact, that the part of the reason that American productivity can't be unleashed the way that it used to, the way that it needs to be, is because of these ESG requirements that they put on these corporations.
Go off, James. Go off, James.
And this is interesting because this is happening both through private sector and through public sector, right? So the government, the SEC is getting all involved in the ESG reporting. But then you have these bankers, these asset management firms like BlackRock and Vanguard, State Street, all these big ass 20 trillion between them, they manage the assets for something like 50 some odd percent, 60% of the S&P 500. Like, that's not small potatoes. Mm-hmm. We're talking $20 trillion in assets under management. And then they have, in other words, simply put, in simple language, they have the biggest swinging dick on the stock market. So they come along and they can tell these companies, look, if you want to be listed on our indices, if you want good investment opportunities, if you want good interest rates, if you want good this, if you want good that, you're going to play our game. Now, in the world I come from, that's called racketeering. And I would absolutely love to see a Trump DOJ go after those sons of bitches with RICO. And it might actually qualify in some cases as monopoly trust. And I'd love to see some antitrust law applied to some of this. But the point of ESG, in my opinion, my parallel in history, they say, well, what's ESG like in history? Not contemporary, because what it's like contemporary is the Chinese economy. It is the exact same model where they've cooked up some means by which the central committee decides how the economy is going to run, and they really run everything. And so it's a Soviet policy. But the closest thing is the new economic policy of the Soviet Union in the 1920s and 1930s. And it's a mechanism. It's not designed to work like the Soviet NEP, which was designed to explode the Soviet production capacities. It's designed instead to cripple Western productivity, to make it too damn expensive, too damn hard to do anything in the United States at scale. You can't build a jet. Let's look at Boeing. Half of the stuff Boeing did is because there's various other problems in the talent pool that they're hiring from. That's kind of a well-known issue. They can't find people who actually know how to do machining, who are interested in working on aviation or aircraft. That's one problem, but part of it is I testified in the Boeing shareholder meeting to this year, and I looked up their SEC filing, and I was like, okay, guys, so you exceeded your target goal on your DEI initiatives. You exceeded your target goal on your environmental stuff. You exceeded your target goal in some bullshit called employee, and it's like psychological safety. Like, you're hammering it out on that, but you missed your production goals in both military and commercial aircraft manufacturing. You missed your quality control goals, like off the chart bad. You didn't even come close. So you're missing production and quality so that you can achieve all of this bullshit. right? This ideological political bullshit that amounts to Chinese style communism applied. And this is very simple. Boeing's got 99 problems, and maybe the 100th one is some bitch. It's got some problems, right? This company is getting fucked. You read the magazines, you read Business Insider, you read any of these things, they're always talking about the Chinese competitor to Boeing that's coming out of nowhere, Comac. And then you scratch your chin for a second, you're like, I think I know what's going on here. They're using ESG and these other policies, and plus some bad hops and bad management stuff, which bad management's downstream from that G score because you're hiring cronies to get your G score to go up. That's actually in their SEC filing too. You implement ESG, your ESG score goes up. If you implement ESG also, if you create your executive compensation package to give yourself a bonus for implementing ESG, your ESG score goes up. How corrupt is that? You refuse, you're supposed to make an executive compensation package that lowers your ESG score. So you're going to get these fools, these basically Soviet tools working in your company. You're not going to manage stuff right. And then look over there. What's waiting? A Chinese competitor. So you're going to drive Boeing out of business to replace it with a Chinese competitor. Airbus is on the chopping block next. Just mark my words, because ESG is all the way across America. It's all the way across Canada. It's all the way across everything in the world that's not China and probably not Russia. This doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out. It makes doing business extremely expensive. It drives companies out of business. It creates monopolies because the only companies that can afford to get these people and check all the boxes and do all the stuff are the hyper big conglomerates who are under the complete control of these globalist weirdos in Europe. And then at the other hand, China's completely exempt and is going to come in and take market share from every single one of these. This is a plot. This is the biggest issue facing our country, honest to God. And if you want to unleash American prosperity, it cannot happen until you get this shit out of our corporate environment. It cannot happen. So this is a multi-pronged. Like I said, I wasn't joking. This is cartel behavior. This is
and
a
other regulations.
Cartel. And other regulations too. I mean, the E has tons of those. The S has tons of these, but yeah, and other regulations too. If we want to unleash American prosperity, job number one has to be getting rid of ESG. Absolutely.
You got Bitcoin?
I got a little. Not enough. I got a little.
Let's go. I love that. Okay, so recently Hawk Tour. This is the woke right test we putting you through right now. Hawk Tour launches a meme coin. A bunch of people lost money. These things happen through mechanisms like Pump.Fund. Pump.Fund has recently been banned in the UK. Should the United States ban something like Pump.Fund and start to regulate the cryptocurrency markets?
I don't think so.
Let's go. That's the correct answer.
Don't be buying some shit meme coin off of some girl who got famous for saying she gives blowjobs. Just don't do that. Like, she's probably a fun girl. We'll just put it that way. Don't buy her cryptocurrency. Like, what the hell are you doing? Now, you might buy it if Elon Musk came out and like said Hawk Tua and then like put a picture of the coin when he did with like Doge.
Yeah. Then I'm all in.
Still pissed off. I couldn't figure out how to buy Doge that night. I was like, oh shit, Elon's rumbling. I'm going to buy. I had like $800 sitting around. I was like, I'm going to buy that. It would have been worth like $70,000 the next day. And you damn well bet I'm not going to hold. I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm running for the hills with that because, I'm not a fool. But I did hold on to my Bitcoin even through the dark year there.
As you should. Should have bought more, though. Should have bought more.
I should have when it was down. I was like, shit, that's low. I should have bought more.
They told me not to like you, James, and I think I like you. Let's move on to the next topic. Performative politics. You said in this article, there is a small but very loud, highly visible, and influential politicians on the right whose entire purpose is virtue signaling to build social capital rather than engaging in policy in a realistic way. I think one of those people right now might be Nancy Mace, because she's talking about we got to ban. Now, I understand the nationwide ban of having women go. I'm actually with that. That right there, I'm a communist on that. Yeah, ban men from going in the women's bathroom. But the funny thing is, don't you know she got her solution? Don't you know she got her own bathroom in her office?
Yeah, I know that. As does the trans person. So there's another. I mean, I'm with you with the banning, but there is another solution, which is that there's legal immunity for the other guy who goes and fixes the problem.
Explain that.
That's more of your savage. That's like, I'm trying to appeal to you. I'm kissing up to you at the moment because you said you started to like me.
Yeah.
I'm just teasing. No, I mean, I don't actually advocate this, but I do think that you're going to dig it. If, a guy goes into a woman's bathroom because he put a wig on or whatever, and some other guy decides, you're not going in a woman's bathroom and happens to,
Daniel Penny's on.
Yeah, I was going to say Daniel Penny, yeah. And, maybe he deserves a little legal immunity for that. It used to be the case that if some dude went into the bathroom and some other dude beat his ass, their cops aren't going to do anything about that.
This is the America I love. This is the America we need.
Now, people are going to be like, James advocated violence. I'm just kissing up to you. A ban is fine too, because the idea is that the idea of the system we have. I'm not saying the right idea, the wrong idea. The system that we have is that we don't take matters into our own hands because the police do. But then, if you look in Florida, do you remember when was it a sheriff that came out and said, if somebody breaks into your house and you shoot them, we prefer that because it saves us from having to do it. Like, you're being a good citizen. Yeah. So, there's a level where that's still understood.
You smell that? That smells like America. Yeah. I totally agree. So let's get back to
I smelled hot dogs, so I think we're in the same place.
Oh, shit. You might have to pause that one, James. Performative politics. What other forms of performative politics? How is this deleterious to America and America First agenda, or just to our lives, period?
Performativity in general, it's like being fake. Being fake. I get it. Like, if you're doing a TV show and you're like, you just played the X-Files, if you're David Duchovny playing Fox Mulder, you got to pretend because you're telling a story through that. That's about it. When you start doing politics that don't represent, actual beliefs, actual agendas, but you're trying to score points. Yeah. You've now lost the plot, right? You've stepped off the purpose. And the problem with performativity in the end is that performativity starts to work off of something that the philosophers call social consensus. And so what everybody's agreeing with is what's right and true. So that's where we were talking earlier, and that's where I said I forgot what I was going to say, where you say, you got the people coming out, all these influencers coming out, and they say the things they're supposed to say. And then their algorithm goes bonkers and they go viral. Everybody, I made fun of it the other day. Which one did I pull out? Because I forget. Oh yeah, it was with one of Trump's picks. I don't even remember which one because it's not important. It doesn't matter. I was like, if everybody on Twitter doesn't come out and give their take on the pick and why it's fantastic, it won't work. You've got to come out and pretend you're all in. It's like,
that's the woke right.
That's the bullshit, right? Is what that is. But yeah,
I call that the woke right. The people coming out, performing, and just, doing shit for clicks. Well, we call them grifters. That's what we call them. Grifties.
We do call them grifters.
Yeah. Grifties.com. Make sure y'all go vote for me, Grifter of the Year. But I did grifting.
I'll tell you, there's another kind of performative politic, though, that's much more frustrating, which is the postmodern brand of performing politics. And I've seen this with the woke right. In fact, they call themselves the postmodern right. This is mostly more of a British phenomenon. I used to call them postmodern traditionalists.
I hate that term, postmodern, but go ahead.
So they're wearing like their flannels and they grow out their friggin' beard and like, we're super trad and we're going to homestead and Sally here is going to not work and have 84 babies. And we're like, she's going to make, apple custard or whatever all the damn time. And it's like, there's this performance of what traditional values are. And it's like, we're going to be the most Christmas on Christmas and we're going to be the most Easter on Easter and Halloween is a Christian holiday and we're going to do it some Jesus way. And it's like, I'm not joking. Like, this is a thing. And so like, they've taken what were traditions, right? Like that people, they find meaning in them. They're important to them. Maybe everybody doesn't like Christmas, but Charlie Brown's not anywhere in any of the stories, Bible or pagan or anywhere, but we all like Charlie Brown Christmas. We like the song. We like the thing, right? We like the little speech Linus gives about the true meaning of Christmas. This is tradition. Maybe your tradition is to sit down and watch it with your family, right? But then you make the tradition pretend. You make it a brand, a commodity, a copycat thing that gets you status in your little club because you're the in crowd who knows how to pretend to be the. You know what we used to call those people when they were mostly in cities and on the left? Hipsters. We called them hipsters. We're not allowed to call them on hipsters when they have a beard and a flannel and a trucker hat on, but it's the same damn thing. These are hipsters that are pretending, but they're actually too cool to do the tradition. They have to pretend they're doing the tradition.
Yeah.
And that sickens the hell out of me.
And that's my issue with Christian nationalism. I'm like, y'all cosplaying.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it right there. Remember that episode? I don't know if you ever watched that King of the Hill. And he has this episode where him and the boy Bobby go to the Christian rock concert, and Bobby's all in a Christian rock, and Hank Hill's all pissed off. That's the dad. And he's sitting there, and the Christian band guy comes out and says whatever he says. And Hank Hill says, I don't know why you guys do what you're doing. You're not making Christianity any better. You're just making rock and roll worse.
Damn.
I mean, I think about that a lot, right?
Yeah. It's a good analogy. You know, but my heart goes out to the viewers of Gutfeld. You know, I'll be on Gutfeld tonight. Make sure you guys go tune in. But the viewers of Gutfeld, you know, the Boomers, the Americans, the Patriots, you know, a lot of people that are new to social media as well. My heart goes out to them because they log online. They want to get their news. They want to get their media. They might even want their biases affirmed. And all they have that's offered to them are a bunch of people cosplaying so that when the next trend comes along, they're going to imagine you're on a train and the conductor jumps off the train. That is the woke right locomotive. Woo! Woo!
You need a train sound. Like chugga, 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 chugga.
Choo choo.
Yeah, you need it.
This is the woke right locomotive where the grifters are in the engine and they're headed nowhere. And as soon as the next trend comes, they're going to hop off this train and leave those good American, traditional, meaning well people on that train with no leader and no conductor. And I feel bad for them.
I feel that. I 100% feel that.
And that's what we get from the performative politics, like you said. You know, that's where we're going to end up.
Yeah,
and for example, we have all these great voices on the right, right? And everybody's mad at you. And I'm like, you guys might want to pick the guy who's critical of your side to be one of your leaders. Because none of your leaders would do it because, like you said, they're afraid of getting excommunicated. My bad. Go ahead.
No, you're true. No, it's what you said about snakes in your own garden earlier. A snake in your garage. Like, you better give a lot of a crap about a snake in your garage, but you don't need to care about one that's out in the woods behind your house all that much. And so, yeah, I mean, it's all biblical too. Like the Bible, whether it's, you know, either side of it, the New Testament or Old, is talking all the time about watch out for false teachers, watch out for false teachers, watch out for false teachers. You know, Jesus has whole parables about this. It's legitimately a concern that, you know, your side can have grifters leading the train. The other thing we haven't actually talked about is if we take seriously that there's this, we don't have to, I think it's communist, but we don't have to take seriously that it's communist. It is communist. Fine, then it makes it easier. We don't have to do the whole stupid thing. Mm-hmm. Do you know what communists do? Communists infiltrate. Communists go into communities and disrupt. They have sayings like dress like a Republican so you can talk like an anarchist. That's an actual saying, right? They infiltrate your community, and what do? They get it to do something stupid. They tear it apart from within. There's a variety of different things they can do. When they get it to do something stupid, that's called a buffalo run. They get you to chase down something that's a really dumb idea. Then you humiliate yourself. They get you like Ray Epps, go in the Capitol. What a great idea, guys. That was a Fed, brother. You know, infiltrator. And to be so, I was going to say naive. I almost said naive. And we got this phrase we use down here, and I get you canceled a little bit on your show. Down here in the South, sometimes we call people sweetly retarded when they're just naive, right? When they're nice people, but they're just not thinking. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I love to hope that a lot of them are, but you got a lot of people who are. It's worse than that, right? They're just blind. They're motivated by my side can't be bad, and they're just willfully blind to the fact that you've got people who will get into your thing, your affinity, your politics, your party, who are going to try to tear it up or mislead it or destroy it. And I can't name too many names. I don't know if I can name any names for certain. I haven't nailed anybody. I mean, there's that one Tenet Media thing that the DOJ busted, right? Where Russian money's dumped into conservative influencers for the purpose of causing conservative influencers to cause discord in the conservative movement. And it was supposed to be like maybe the DOJ's lying and it's a fed up, but somebody's trying to disrupt the conservative movement with a lot of money, right? So we're infiltrated. It's beyond naivety. It's willful blindness, willful ignorance to believe that everybody who says they're on my side is on my side. And we've got to, I'm not telling you trust me, like, oh, no, don't trust anybody else. Trust me. I'm not telling you that. Check, people. Check.
Let's set some guidelines, okay, to help people, because a lot of people are going to watch this, okay? Let's set some guidelines, right? And I'm going to give my 2, and then you can follow up and tell me what you like and if you want to add more. Number 1, nobody should have a legit voice in this movement if they have not said something that is contrary to the popular narrative of your political party or political side. That's one. That's a red flag. If you've never seen your influencer, the person you follow, say something that you go, yo, no, I don't like that. That means they are just affirming your biases all day long. You just been hitting, and they didn't. And then half the time they do it by accident, and then they delete the tweet. They're like, oh wait, that doesn't go along with the party lines, right? So we're dealing with some Stalin shit now, right?
Many such cases.
Yes. Number 2, if they never critiqued your party, critiqued your side, not individuals, ideologically, policy-wise. Number 3, if they've never put pen to paper, if they've never written essays, published books, podcasts don't count. Anybody can get a motherfucking podcast. Everybody get in front of the camera, got something to say. But if you've never sat down and published something, you cannot be trusted. Now, that doesn't mean just because you publish something, you should be trusted. No. But we have to start creating some sort of, I'm sorry, I'm done.
No, that's good. That's good. It used to be a saying back in the day when I was in college, every white guy had to have a acoustic guitar, right? And then it became later in my life, I heard every white guy has to have a podcast. And so isn't it the truth though?
Yeah.
Like you're a white dude with a microphone got a podcast.
Right. That doesn't qualify you to
doesn't
have
qualify
opinion.
you.
No.
Doesn't qualify you for anything.
No.
Yeah, so this is the thing, right? If you do have to have that critical mind to say, something's not right here, or are you sure about that? Or especially with a party, like, I don't think so. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? And when you see, this is my favorite one, this one from the memes that I've seen on the internet. Hello, fellow black person, I'm one of you. I've seen these memes about the black people. The comedians actually used to say, if everybody's running one direction, black people don't stop and wait, they run with them.
Whole
right?
ass. Facts.
That's right. Whereas white people turn around and march off and say, well, let's see what's going on here,
Yeah.
Well, when everybody's herd animaling and everybody has to have the same opinion, all of a sudden, oh, Trump picked, Dolly Parton to run the Secretary, be Department of Defense, right? And everybody's like, Dolly Parton's a great pick. Everybody loves Dolly Parton. Dolly Parton's American treasure. At some point, you got to say, why is this happening, right? You've got to say, why is this happening? Yeah. Are we being led to run in one particular direction? Sure, right? I mean, it blows my mind, that with Trump, it's killing me right now. Not Trump himself. Trump's not doing anything wrong. No. He's picking people. That's his freaking job.
Right.
And it doesn't matter who he picks. every influencer, you're going to like where I go with this too. Every influencer on social media, every right-wing influencer is like, this is the best pick ever. You know what? The truth is some of them are good. Some of them are not so good. Some of them are somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Some of them scare the shit out of me. So this is the reality, but we have to cheer every single one of them on. You know what? I was talking to some people about this and I was like, why are we doing this? And they said, well, we got to keep the momentum up. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, we got to stay positive. So I'm like, Kamala Harris just ran on joy and vibes, and you're telling me now we need joy and vibes, and we're not allowed to question what's going on at the critical juncture when questioning can do something. Are you thinking clearly here? Right? Like, Trump is not dear leader, welcome to the United States of America.
Yeah.
He works for us. We used to say stuff like that. And so, yeah, he's talking about putting people into positions of power.
Yeah.
Power over our lives. We should be able to ask some questions about that. Like,
But
if he wants to put Doug Burgum into office and Doug Burgum loves ESG, I want to know what the hell's, did you change? Why is this happening? Was money exchanged? What's the deal? I don't know what the answers to all those questions are, but I want to hear those answers.
But the issue is people have to intellectualize their bullshit.
Yeah, that's
right. Like,
the other thing, you know Michael Malice?
I do.
Michael Malice and I were talking yesterday, and he was like, here's where you're going wrong with the woke right, James. He's like, you unfortunately think in terms of true and false. You're like, I'm kind of like autistic or something. I don't know what my problem is. I think in terms of true and false. And then I make the big mistake that every human being makes every day, which is I generally think other people probably think kind of like I do.
Okay.
Right? They think in a similar way, not that they agree with me. Their thinking process. So I think true and false matter. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, a lot of people do not think in terms of true and false. They think in terms of us and them.
Correct.
And so when you use a term like woke right, this is a great point he brought up. They get confused because they say woke is them, right is us, and it's like a train wreck in their brain. They don't know where to go with woke right.
Yeah, they stupid. They need to be removed from the gene pool. Yeah, continue. I'm sorry.
They can trans themselves by the end of the show.
We should trans them, yeah.
Yeah, you guys, if you feel wrong in your body, there are drugs you can take to help you with your stupidity.
Trans drugs for all the woke right. But continue, I'm sorry. But basically what happens is they hear woke, they hear right, they think with a us versus them dynamic. Correct. This is
instead of a true versus false dynamic.
And that lets you know you're in a cult, but continue.
Well, that was the whole point, is that but the mistake that causes why you're pointing out that the chat has all these people that really seem to hate me. They really hate me. What's going on?
I mean, they come from a group of people that have no merit, but continue.
I suspect I know what that's about. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you think in terms of tribe as though tribe is a means to truth, then you, like you said, you're in a cult. You're no longer actually thinking. Mm-hmm. And so the broader point that we were talking about is that to be, a respected member contributing to the discourse, there has to be that point where you're saying, you know what, tribe, I thought this through and this isn't right. Or I don't know about this, or, could we just not go there? That kind of questioning has to be there, or else you're stuck in this tribe versus truth war, and you're on the tribe side. This is, I think, one of the problems, right? Everybody's basically ass kissing to the tribe.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you start doing that, truth falls out. And I'm actually, this is a different topic, but I'm scared about the way X is structured right now, Twitter, whatever, I still call it Twitter, but I'm scared about the way X I'm not woke.
I like where you're going. Let's talk about X. Say it.
I think that it is structured for conflict. I do not think it is structured in a way that gets toward truth. I'm actually very concerned. There are things about Twitter before Elon bought it that were very obviously worse, right?
Yeah.
Like, you say the wrong word, you're out.
Yeah.
That was me. I was getting 12-hour bans all the time. I got kicked off for 5 months. It's supposed to be lifetime. If Elon didn't bring me back, I was gone, right?
Yeah.
There are things that are definitely better now. You can say stuff. You're not going to get banned. You might get shadow banned. We all know about the shadow banning. And, you get demoted in the algorithm or whatever, or else you might get these, different things happen to your account. But you can say stuff and you can get paid to say stuff now. Well, that's all better. But it feels to me when I use Twitter like it's way worse in terms of like my algorithm just like is this machine that either generates constant conflict. Like if I go dunk on some dumbass Democrat or something like that, I don't need 50 more tweets from that Democrat showing up in my feed because I'm going to dunk on all 50 of them. And I was like, I don't have self-control, Elon. Come on.
This is true.
This is worse.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is I'll get on there and I'll open it up, it'll be for you or whatever, right? And I'm like, for you. And I know I tweet too much because if I go to the one that's like, you know, chronological, they're all me. And I'm like, shit, that's all me. I'm the only person on my timeline. That's embarrassing.
Spam
so
me.
I can't look at that because I already know what I said. So I have to go look at the for you. And I look at the for you and it's like 500 of, you know, what it's again, like Trump's picks are the thing right now. Whatever it is, every single person is like, why it's the greatest thing in the world. And it's like this rah-rah club. And if you don't go along with that, you're nothing. You're not there.
You cancel. You don't belong. Get out of here.
I don't like it.
I hate it.
I'm a contrarian by nature, so it doesn't work for me. Maybe I'm just being personal
I'm from
about
New Jersey, so I'm a hater.
Oh yeah, well,
So I got hate in my blood. So I'm just looking for something to hate on, you know. And when something's not right, I'm gonna hate on it. And I see a lot not right. Sam Tripoli has this phrase where he says, "Black history is white future." So my prediction is Trump is the white Obama.
Hmm.
What happened to black folks? We were highly critical during them Bush years, but as soon as Obama got up there, nobody wanted to critique Obama because he was black. He was our savior. It's like, oh, we finally got a black president. We went to sleep. And everybody, if you ask the black community now, what they'll tell you, yo, we ain't get nothing from the Obama thing. He gave out rights to gay people. We didn't get nothing from Obama. We should have been on him more and held him to the fire. And I'm like, yo, white people, if y'all don't learn from black people how they handle their president, you're not going to get what you want out of your white president. So you might want to hold his feet to the fire and make sure you get what you want out of these next 4 years.
dude,
That's my concern.
dude. We might be like best friends before we're done here. I am so with you on that.
I didn't expect this to happen. I thought I was going to hate you.
No. I didn't think I was going to hate you, but I didn't know what was going to. I had no.
Well, everybody
no
told me I was supposed to, so.
Oh, everybody. Well, that's the internet. They're all retarded. It's like a mental illness being on there.
It is.
In honest to God, who's going to be on the internet as much as I am? So this is obviously me recognizing myself. This is self-awareness. We're practicing self-awareness today. That's my spiritual practice, self-awareness. People who don't have much social life, people who are weirdos, people who are like terminal introverts, people with mental disorders who don't fit in, people who are depressed, so they don't really want to go outside, but they still want to be social, so they spend their whole life on the internet. Like, it's not selecting for the cream of the crop in terms of psychiatric health. And these are the people dominating our political conversations. Also, lunatic political junkies who that's like all they do and think about. Maybe
Right.
maybe I can say I'm not mentally ill or something that way. I don't know. I don't remember where I was going with that, but that I totally agree with you. Okay, so
We got a whole Trump.
I get it when your boy's running, right? When Trump's running and it's like, oh shit, Special K might win this thing, right? I get it. Let's rally around the dude, circle the wagons,
Yes.
and push him. The
Correct.
second the man is elected, let me explain in a very simple 5-letter word what has happened. Power. This man has now received, I mean, not immediately. He's got to be inaugurated. I get that. So January 20th is coming. This man is now the person with power over you. Here's a rule. Here's a basic rule for you. It's not about who gets to be in the conversation. It should be who's in the conversation. If you do not have a healthy skepticism and critical orientation toward power, you are messing up. You're the dude in Ordinary Men causing the Nazis at some level. Not to say that you're actually doing that. If you're like, yeah, cheer for everything the power guy does. No, you got, like you just said, you got to hold the feet to the fire. Now, I agree with you actually the way you phrased it, though, which is not what I just said. So I heard you. I'm watching people go to sleep. our guy's in, we won, woke is dead. I'm talking to dudes like in government jobs, in corporate jobs, and education jobs. They're tightening all the screws. Woke is getting so much worse. They know that there's going to be problems from power, so they're locking in hard. It's 5 times worse than it was a month ago. Like, woke is not dead. And it's like
It's not
Don
dead.
Jr.'s out there screaming on Twitter, woke is dead. We voted it out. You can't vote out an ideology, man. And they did this with Reagan. Reagan got elected. Everybody went to sleep. So you know, we don't even have to use the Sam Tripoli's, aphorism here. The fact of the matter is that this already happened. White people, it wasn't just white people. All conservatives went to sleep when Reagan won. What happened? The Fabian socialists creep in and screw up his whole freaking administration. They take over the universities, start publishing at a rate they've never published before because they feel like an embattled ideological minority that could lose everything. So they're a cornered animal at this point. And they dug into power everywhere they could and infiltrated everything they could and went full blast through those 8 years of Reagan and then the 4 following years where they got their Fabian guy in, George H.W. Bush. That's a very bad name to call Mr. Bush, but I think it's true. I do not think he was a friend to the American people or the American interests, and I don't think Ronald Reagan would have chose Mr. Bush had he not been pushed into it by these exact kinds of tactics. So if you think they're not going to pull every bit of this on Trump, in Trump's administration, and then down into, education and the various departments of everything, just the same way, you're a fool. You're a fool and you don't have anything interesting to say. So you need to be like Trump's Trump, first of all. And second of all, Trump's busy as hell. The only way he's going to be aware that things are going on is if people stay on him. I remember back in his previous administration. So this is 17 through 20, really, because 21 doesn't really count. 17 through 20, people early in that time were telling him, President Trump, there's this thing, critical race theory. It's kind of becoming a problem, right? He's like, yeah. We got real things to worry about. If we don't have people advocating, like, no, we've got to make this an issue. You've got to be able to see it. He's not going to see it. I'm not criticizing him for not seeing it. I'm criticizing all of us because we've got to be able to advocate and hold that feet to the fire. We cannot go to sleep like you were suggesting, or else we are, as my brother used to spell it, F-U-C-T.
Let's dive down that rabbit hole, critical race theory, while we're there. But first, let me say I figured out why they don't like you.
I'm funny.
You're sort of funny.
Good looking.
You're definitely not good looking.
Damn it.
You know what it is? You're a threat to their market share.
Well, that might be true.
You're a threat to their market share. You've checked off those boxes that I talked about earlier, right? And one of those is you've published work. You've got a website, and you've got a Substack, and you're publishing work, and you're quite the intellectual, and that's a threat to their anti-intellectualism. Now let's talk about critical race theory. Why do you think Trump needs to pay attention to critical race theory? I can't stand critical race theory, probably for different reasons, but tell me why you think Trump needs to pay attention to it.
Well, I mean, less now, but it never goes away. But this was in 17 because, I mean, obviously it was creeping and it became the stage setter for a lot of what happened and a lot of the justifications that were given for what unfolded over the summer and fall of 2020 following the death of our saint, George Floyd. So rising up through rest in power, or something like that. Rising up through, I told you I'm funny. Rising up through the 16, 17, but especially getting to 18 and 19, it started to become very clear to the people that had something worth saying, who were saying things, that the logic of Marxism had colonized this racial argument in the form of critical race theory.
Yes.
And in fact, I wrote a book called Race Marxism that's supposed to explain critical race theory. That's the whole point. The subtitle is The Truth About Critical Race Theory. Race Marxism. That's it. It's the whole Marxist architecture stuck into race in place of class. There you go. And My personal belief is that Marxism has never helped anybody get anything better ever. So this is not a boon to the black community, or more broadly, whatever the hell a POC is. This is not something that's going to help people. That to the degree that racial issues are real and problems and so on and so forth, this is like the worst possible way you could inject something to deal with it. And I didn't even understand at the level that I do now how bad it is, where it came from, that these were Soviet programs and so on. And when you have that kind of a explosive agitprop being not just fed to communities through the media in particular, but also, other means, NGOs and whatever else. For example, every time a police incident with a black person happens, the same exact CRT analysis narrative is given. This is what Lenin called agitprop, agitation and propaganda, in order to inflame a population. When you have that happening, when you have it being piped into the heads of children in schools so that they think that that's the only way to understand America's racial history and racial present and racial future, you've got a powder keg on your hands. And so, as 2020 proved out, ignoring that. Now, I don't know exactly what President Trump would have been able to do about it, right? The only thing I think he could have done about it, period. The only thing I think he really could have done about it, because you saw he did that executive order and it did fuck all, right? I think all he could have done about it is elevate it to the level of a national issue and get it on the table to where it's now being discussed. And we're now having a conversation that, because Trump would have raised it at that point, would have been extremely contentious.
I'm sorry, I got a vaccine injury and ADD and all types of shit. Maybe you said it already. What's the threat, though, of critical race theory that we have to be concerned with?
That it creates radicalized factions within populations that are likely to do massive damage to social cohesion and possibly, as happened in 2020, instigate a cultural revolution.
Okay, I agree.
Which I don't think, and I think that the evidence is all pretty heavily in. I don't think that benefited any of the communities that they said it was supposed to benefit in virtually any way.
Rutgers just did a study on DEI.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if you saw it. I'll share it with you after.
I did, but I didn't read it. I'm sure it's bad.
Oh yeah, I just scrolled to the end, the summary, and it basically said, DEI was supposed to fix racial problems, but it made them worse.
What a surprise!
And I'm reading it, and I'm looking at it like, you do realize that the Marxists put DEI in place to create that problem, to make racial strife. Like they literally, that was the goal. Like DEI worked.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You know that the Russians, the Soviets, I should say, had a DEI program.
Really?
The Russian was called Colonization, which means nativization, but the program works. Colonization is closest to the I part of DEI, not that they're separable. The equity part was called actual equality. The problem that was preventing it from taking root was called Great Russian Chauvinism instead of white supremacy culture. And they actually had another subsidiary program called Raznobratia in Russian, and Raznobratia literally means diversity. And so what it was to do was to go around to the different ethnic minority populations in the different Russian federated states, Georgia, Ukraine, etc., and to figure out who the people in there, they come in and tell them, say, we want you to have absolute self-determination for your state, your ethnic minority state. We're going to let you speak your own language. We're going to let you have your own schools. We're not going to have any standards from coming in from Russia itself. We're going to let you all be free from all of that. You self-determine. But what they did then was they would also pipe in this propaganda that the true understanding of who you are actually is much closer to the Russian Soviet than to the Russian as a great Russian chauvinist who's trying to take over your people and force you to become more Russian, right? And the language now is act white. And they would do this. And then, of course, the people who are largely the grifters in these ethnic minority states who went along with the Soviet line the hardest would be the ones that the Soviets then made into leaders. Like, okay, so, Stalin was a Georgian. Stalin's going to run over, and make sure everything here is good. And they took some back to the federal government and had them placed into the federal government. There's your DEI inclusion hiring program. And guess what would happen if anybody criticized them? That was Great Russian chauvinism. You were doing a bigotry, so you can't criticize these people. So they were growing up garden variety in each of the different ethnic states, garden variety socialists, and then using their ethnic status as a shield so that they could push their socialism so that the Russians would defer against it. It's the exact same program. And it was, like I said, Colonization is the overarching, Raznobratia, diversity is the underlying program. And the goal was what they called actual equality, which is literally our word equity, literally the same program. And so, yeah, this was straight up Soviet stuff. And so what do you think it's going to do? Okay, let's say that we're so stupid that we can't guess that an obvious program to cause ethnic tension and infighting and outfighting and everything else is going to cause all that, right? All we have to do is look back in history, because the Russians actually did it. Guess what happened by about 1930? The ethnic strife was so high that Stalin had to rule with his iron fist, and in like a day, they just ended the whole program and flipped it around, and like everybody's a Soviet now. And then when the Ukrainians kind of got mad about it, he starved 9 million of them in the Holodomor to make sure that all the other ethnic minority groups got the point that no, we're all Soviets now, right? And so, of course, that's what it did. Like you said, that's what it was designed to do. And that's what it did the first time that they used it.
Yep.
And it's like, so why should the president know about that? Like, Mr. President, the hottest thing in our business environment and in every institution and in all of our universities and all of our schools happens to be a program derived from the Soviets. And this is what happened when they did it. Sounds like an important thing to communicate.
I'm gonna need the Kick Chat to behave themselves. Y'all acting up over there. Kick Chat, relax.
They think I'm funny too.
They
think I'm good looking. They disagree with you.
No, they do not think you're good looking.
I'm teasing.
I'm just fucking with you. All right, we're gonna start to land this plane. I just want to run this list down because I had a list and you got a list. We're gonna have to combine these lists. But I want to run down your list. I thought this was brilliant. I was pretty pissed off because I didn't think of this. So, says here, so what are some of the characteristics of the woke right? So I'm going to read some of these, and then, at the end, maybe, we want to talk about whichever ones pop out the most. I think we covered most of these. So we got contrarianism. Whatever the other side says, believe the opposite. That is so real.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times I pulled my hair out because I'm like, y'all going against y'all principles just to own the left. I'm like,
yep.
Well, all right.
Every time.
Every single time. Outrage culture. Yeah, lots of that. Purity tests. Lots of that. Cult-like obsession with political figures. Facts. If it ain't AOC, it doesn't warrant any merit. That's our goddess. Anyway, cynicism. Nothing can be believed. All facts that contradict the narrative must have been fabricated. Oh, so real. So that's what they'll tell you. They'll tell you that, man. On the left, this comes from the form of, and it's sort of like a form of cognitive dissonance as well. Conspiracy theories. I can hardly blame people after so many legitimate conspiracy theories have been proven right. But that doesn't mean you start believing things to be true because they fit your narrative, instead of verifying whether or not they actually are. All conspiracy theories do is delegitimize the real conspiracies that are taking place. And that's so true. I watch so many people just delegitimize themselves just for clicks. And I'm like, bro, that shit sounds stupid what you're saying. Like, stop it. Loss of intellectual integrity. We covered that before, right? Where the bar has been lowered on what it takes to be an influencer amongst the right. And demagoguery. Appealing to people's emotions and prejudices rather than reason. It's just cheap manipulation. Yeah, I love that list, man. Anything in there you want to expound upon?
No, that's a pretty damn good list, actually, if I do say so myself.
That's a sick ass list, bro. I'm fucking I'm upset. I thought we were going to argue and debate, and I thought I was going to disagree with you about something. We didn't disagree about much. I'm trying to find, hold on a second. So we covered, what else did they say about you? They said we covered the Christian nationalism thing. Me and you kind of on the same wave with that. A
lot of people think that I'm
this.
an op to split the right. That's a thing, right? Like I'm the one causing division.
That shit's corny. Everything is communism. That's another gripe people get with you.
Oh yeah, that's fun. That's fun. I don't actually think that everything's communism. I think that we're under a communist revolution, and that's my main object of study. So guess what I talk about? Boop, communism.
That's what I study, yeah. And I see communism everywhere.
Like, I'm not going on Twitter and talking about like how to go fishing. Like, it's not my job. Like, Twitter is not like, I mean, I do have fun on there some, but it's like primarily like it's like a work environment. I'm testing ideas and theories and seeing how people are responding to different stuff to see if my messaging is on point or if I need to figure out how to communicate that point in a different way or a better way. I mean, I do change my mind. I get corrected on stuff too. I get stuff wrong. People tell me stuff. I'm like, oh crap, but I'm mostly, it's like message testing. Like, where are people ready to hear? Because if you're not hitting the rubber on the road, the car's not going anywhere. Right. So there's a lot of that. And sometimes it's like, fine, but what am I talking about? Yeah, I say a lot of things are communism because my job is to say what things are communism. Like, they were real happy when I explained why Kamala Harris was a communist. They were real happy about it. If you look at my Twitter analytics, it's like this wiggly line for the whole year. And then there's this one spike where I had a video explaining Kamala Harris. It's like, it looks like that freaking tower in Dubai sticking up over everything. And I'm like, well, my whole thing's all messed up now because of it. They like when I say certain things are, but it's like, I get it. I'm repetitive, but that's sort of like marketing, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to sell people on
yeah.
ideas or thinking of a thing. And the only way to market, you go watch a Coca-Cola commercial, see how many times it says Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Don't watch a Jaguar commercial. It never says Jaguar or cars or anything. You don't know what's going on except gay things are happening now. But
it's
that's
branding.
a joke about the new one. But marketing is repetition.
Jaguar. I like the new Jaguar car, by the way. The commercial was trash.
Yeah,
but the car,
is that the one I've only ever seen it pink?
The pink one,
come in other colors?
I don't know, but the car
it's
design,
pretty cool, actually. Honestly, I mean,
but you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to say that because what did you put on this list? If the left likes it, you gotta hate it, right? Now I hated the commercial, and then I saw the car drop, and because the commercial is aligned with Jaguar, people were like, "Oh, the car's ugly," and I'm like, "Nah, that car kind of look fly though." I don't know about the color
on this, and I disagree. I don't think Cybertrucks are cool.
We disagree.
No, I still think, I mean, I saw one.
The design I like. The concept of this Skynet thing, I'm scared of.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Skynet. No, I was actually talking about the design. I still can't help but see a dumpster.
I love the design. I don't know why.
That's a matter of taste. Yeah. And that's okay.
Yeah,
I can respect that you have that taste.
Yeah, as much as I am afraid of Skynet, I fucking love the Cybertruck.
You know, they could build the design without the Skynet.
They could, yeah.
That's you're not allowed to criticize Elon.
Yeah, you're not allowed to do that. That's another god of theirs, yeah. And
I criticize him brain chips and Skynet scare the shit out of me, so...
Yo, you're like my new best bro. This the shit I be screaming like, yo, is your new hero the guy with Skynet and the brain chips? Lord have mercy, we are doomed. Y'all are cheering this guy on. Y'all supposed to tell him stop. Tell him stop, please. And he's got robots now. I'm like, wait.
The robots are creepy, man. The only robots I dislike more than those Tesla robots are those dog robots. Like, I'm 90% sure that I'm gonna die. That some enemy is gonna send one of those dog robots with like an AR-15 on the back of it mounted, and it doesn't miss, and I'm gonna get mowed down by a robot dog.
You watched Black Mirror first 2 seasons?
Oh God, I watched like 3 episodes. I'm like, I can't do this. Oh man, I don't need this shit in my brain,
bro. Black Mirror first 2 seasons were from the original writers. Everything else, don't watch. It's bullshit. But the original writers were the first 2 seasons, and they're fantastic. I love that shit, but it is very scary. But yeah, they had them dog robots in that.
Yeah, those dog robots freak me out, man.
Yeah, that all this, you know.
They're like, look at it running over every possible kind of terrain. Look how it gets back up if you knock it down. Somebody told me if you spray it with expandy foam, it can't move its legs anymore, though.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, now we're talking my language. How do I stop one?
Yeah, we're gonna need some anti Skynet measures put in place.
I'm 100% with you, and I black pill on this shit, so I can't think too much about it. I'm like, we're all doomed.
Yeah. Chat, behave yourselves. Lauren Fonseca says, I've been a registered Democrat for 20 years. Dissent within the party is usually crushed. That's changed a bit recently, but not by much. Yeah.
That's why you're seeing people jump ship and go to the Republican Party. Did you see that lady Sean Theory down in Texas, in Houston?
Mm-mm.
She's state rep down in Houston, Texas, and her story is interesting, right? So she's state rep, and then she disagrees with some of the trans stuff the Democrat Party in Texas was pushing.
Okay.
And so she says, I'm going to vote against it, and she's going to go against her party. And they said, and I quote, this is her story, they said, hold your nose and vote for it, or the party will destroy you. And then she didn't, and she gave a speech, and she voted against it. And this is a state representative seat. So they primaried her ass at $750,000, $750,000 they threw to primary her on a state representative seat in Texas. So they primaried her out of the Democratic Party because she stood by her principles. So what's she do? She comes out and says, well, to hell with it. I'm a Republican now then. If I can't think for myself in the Democratic Party, I'll think for myself somewhere else. And then she comes out and endorses Trump. Of course, they all lost their friggin' minds that this happened. Of course, this is also a black lady. So now you got a black lady from Houston, Texas, abandoning the Democratic plantation, thinking for herself for the first time, because she was told, that was the point, that all dissent would be crushed by the party. And they spent $750,000 on a little podunk seat to do it. That's how serious the Democrats were about crushing all dissent. And like she's a freaking cool lady, and now she's like getting to deliver principles, which is, right or wrong, at least do that.
Right. Yeah, I saw that story a couple of weeks back. Yeah. Are you familiar with Janice Rogers Brown?
Mm-mm.
You got to remember to look up an article. She's got this is a conservative black female judge, Janice Rogers Brown, that Biden voted against appointing to state Supreme Court, I believe it was. And she could be in Supreme Court right now but I think she's like left politics, but she's radically conservative, and I love every bit of it. She's a member of the
Federalist Society and frequently features at events hosted by the organization. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, she's amazing. You got to read some of her work.
Yeah, I looked her up, so I'll remember to do it later.
Yeah, she's got some great essays. Robert Jones, $2 super, thank you. He said, what time period was the Soviet program active? He's talking about the one that you're
Koronization.
Yeah.
They officially implemented it in 1923 at the 12th Party Congress, and it I don't know what year it actually ended, but it was in the early 1930s, 31 or 32.
Okay.
So it would have been 23 to 30 approximately.
I'm going to do one last thing before I let you go. I'm going to do the against my better judgment. I'm going to check my check my Twitter mentions and see. Yup.
I don't think I'm that hateable. I mean, maybe I am. I don't know.
Yeah, they've already clipped it. We've gotten clipped.
Good.
We've gotten clipped. Oh, she's upset. Oh, she's totally upset. She's got her whole clan running. So we've done our job. We're about to go viral. Yeah. Run to your TV. Hotep Jesus on Greg Gutfeld tonight.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, dude. He's funny.
Tyrus is the man. Gutfeld is the man. Shout out to those guys. We had a great show tonight. Me, Dagan, Tyrus, and Kat. It was a really, really good show. I'm going to head over to my chess channel now, kick.com/HotepJesus. James, thank you so much for having this conversation. I had a tremendously fun time with you.
Yeah.
I'm shocked at how much we agree. And we got to collab more. We definitely got to collab more. Anytime you want to collab, hit me up. If I see something we should collab on, I'll definitely hit you up.
Sounds awesome.
Hell yeah. All right, you can just hit the leave button. I'll close out the show.
All right. See you guys. Thanks. Great to talk to you.
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, the Griff Report. How was that? Shout out to Papa Hotep with the 10 gifted subs. Declassified FBI said, see you at Hotep Con, James. Yeah, he's Hotep adjacent. I was like, people were telling me he's like a liberal and all this other shit. And I'm like, I was trying to find a liberal. I was trying to poke at him and find a liberal. I didn't see any liberal tendencies. I was looking for him. Man. Yeah, it's part of our DEI outreach program. Just in case you guys don't know, Hotep Nation has a DEI program. Unfortunately, last year at HotepCon, only black men and white women showed up. So we're extending our DEI program to black women and white men. So hopefully we can get more of you guys to come to our events. Grifties tickets go on sale soon. Make sure you check out grifties.com, Grifties. Grifties.com. Make sure you go check that out and bookmark that website so that when tickets go on sale, you get them. They sold out really fast last time, so you're going to have to get in there really quick and get them. We're going to have VIP tickets. Those went really fast. I think those sold out within a couple of days, and then the rest of the tickets sold out a couple weeks later, so make sure you get in there. It's going to be a packed house. It's going to have amazing lineup at the Grifties. Yes, indeedy. I tried, y'all. I tried to poke some holes in James there, but it's just not there. It's just not. Mason Perry's upset. He's unsubscribing. Best of luck. Yuri would be horrified by James. Well, I don't know what people are upset about, but the Kick Chat is happy. If the Kick Chat is happy, then we've had a good show, I'm going to head on over to my chess channel. I'm going to play some chess, mostly because I'm just wired from that conversation. I need to decompress. So I'm going to go over to kick.com/HotepJesus and play some chess right now. So if you want to watch, even if you want to play me, maybe you want to play me, enter the chat. Maybe we get some games going. Gonna play some Blitz. I'm out of here, man. Be well, stay merry, tell somebody in your family that you love them. And as always, Hotep and build.
2, 1, boom. Hotep Jesus.
Of all the Jesuses I know, he's the Hotepiest. Social scientist and YouTube host, Hotep Jesus.
How the fuck do you get a name like Hotep Jesus?
The one and only Hotep Jesus.
Ryan Sharp, better known to the world as Hotep Jesus.
Hotep Jesus. Hotep Jesus. Hotep Jesus.
Hotep, you're a genius. HotepJesus.com.
Somebody said, what do you think you are? Some kind of Hotep Jesus?
Ooh,
And
that's
I was
good.
just like, ooh, that's sexy. Yes, I do think I'm Hotep Jesus.